Fairfield Conservation Commission acting as the Inland Wetlands Agency. Today is October 9th, 2024. Lucas Thomas, Stephanie Bowen, Richard Boucher, Jay Thames, Peter Hood, Peter Mahoney, Ted Luxinger is, I think, online. Yeah. Diane Saunders is here. Appointing Diane Saunders as a full member for tonight. Moving on to approval of draft meeting minutes. First one, Inland Wetlands Agency special meeting, August 21, 2024. Do any commissioners have any corrections or comments on that? Okay. Second one is Inland Wetlands Agency meeting, November 4th, 2024. Commissioners have any corrections or comments on that one? Nope. The third one is Inland Wetlands Agency special sidewalk meeting of September 22nd, 2024. Any commissioners have any comments or corrections on that one? No. And a motion to approve all three. Okay, Rick is first, second. Okay. Favor? Aye.
All right.
Okay. All right, moving on to no applications to see. So we're going to Roman numeral 5, application for discussion. First one, WC-24-0095, Blanco 144, Bennett Street, map 26, parcel 166. Corrective action to remediate unauthorized activity within a water course and vegetation removal within the regulated area. Last date of public hearing or decision is November 8th, 2024. Prior November 6th, 2024. There's also an application for a fee waiver. Upon the decision of the fee waiver request, staff recommends approval with conditions to fulfill original notice of violation and corrective action order. Let's start with the fee waiver. Any comments? Anything to discuss? The applicant's here.
Yeah, who's here?
Yes, is the applicant here?
The applicant is here.
Oh, please, come on up. Could you state your name clearly for the record and your address, please?
My name is Heather Harrington. My address is 144 Bennett Street in Fairfield, Connecticut, 06825.
Okay, thank you. Have a seat, please. Thank you. Okay, I'd like to point out that Ted Luxinger is online now.
We're close to $20,000.
$20,000? Yeah.
Yeah, I paid 5,000 of it.
Paid 5,000?
Yep.
Okay. Someone with comments?
And then I have to pay your attorneys another 5,000 in December.
What is that for?
What now?
What is that for, the 5,000?
I don't know, you have to.
The legal fees for the.
Yeah. So then I had to pay 5,200 for the survey. So I've already put 15,200 into it, which is like an unbelievably large amount of money. I don't know.
Are you Ms. Blanco?
I am, yeah.
Okay.
I was. That's my married name.
Oh, I
My
see.
maiden name is Harrington.
I'm asking for the record.
What I recall, and correct me if I'm wrong, Tim and Ms. Blanco, there was an initial violation and there was no communication for a really long time. And I think we had to bring a lawsuit. And I remember part of the lawsuit was we started, we're gonna do this stuff, and now it's just all accumulating.
Right, I guess I would have expected like a phone call or an email. I didn't understand what was happening. But now I have put $15,200 or excuse me, $10,200 into this. I'm saving up to put another 5,000 into it in December. So it's like to me that's like a tremendous amount of money. I could save up, until I was 41 to have the down payment for a house in Fairfield. This has been an extraordinary expenditure from my perspective, and it would be put another I guess you're asking for another, I believe, 13,500 just for the permitting process. Would be like essentially kicking me out of town.
That's normal.
Excuse me?
That's the normal fees.
No, the normal fees are 8,500, of which I've paid 5,000, right? The additional fees are penalties that are being applied by the town on top of the 5,000 in legal fees that I'm already being required to pay the town. I didn't know that I had a wetland in my backyard. I hired a licensed and insured landscaper. I thought those were appropriate. Like, I'm not a homeowner, obviously, and I'm not from a wealthy family. I don't understand the zoning rules of the suburbs of Connecticut. I thought that by hiring a licensed and insured landscaper, I was doing the correct thing. I had no idea I was violating rules. As soon as I found out I was violating rules, I stopped. Like, if you look at my backyard, it's not, there's no intention to landscape it or to alter the wetland, right? Like, I'm trying to make the wetland, trying to comply with what you guys want.
How long have you owned them?
I bought the house in November 22nd of 2022.
We sidewalked this on a Sunday,
You did, yes.
and I have to say that I agree that the amount of destruction was minimal from my perspective.
Let me just read for the record what the charges are.
Please.
Well, proposed activity, water body, water course, disturbance or dredging. There's a fee of $3,500. There's another fee for landscaping only under other activities for $200. There's an inland wetland permit fee, the application fee applicable to all for $5,000, and the corrective action, violation correction action is $8,700. Total is, with the state reporting fee, is $17,460.
Okay. And Tim, this, the staff's recommendation is approval with conditions, and it cleans up the notice of violation and corrective action.
This, the proposed activities in the application would satisfy the NOV.
May I ask a question, or? Like, if it's, I don't know what to do because the application assumes that there's no regrowth and there's been significant regrowth, so like, am I supposed to, like, if I do the things that are in the application, it will like involve cutting down all the plants that have regrown, and so I don't know, like, am I supposed to go back and like, 'cause I don't want to get in trouble for killing the plants that have grown in the interim, because it's like a regrowth of what had been there before. And so I'm not, like, is it possible that like somebody comes to my house and tell me like, I'm sorry.
So my question would have been, in 2022, did you have an attorney that helped you with the sale?
I did, yes.
But I would think that ordinary title search show up. But this happens all the time with.
I certainly emailed the attorney and I didn't hear back from them.
A hard time accepting that you wouldn't be aware of the restriction on the property.
I'm an attorney myself, and so I can't lie. I mean, I'm obviously under oath, but I wouldn't lie in an official proceeding. I would really lie. I was not aware that I was, excuse me?
Did you look at the deed at all?
I don't think this is on the deed. I've got a copy of the deed. This is not, like, it just says, this is, you own this property in fee simple, and it's like 1 page long. There's
So you're
nothing.
not aware that there are wetlands at all?
No,
Okay.
I was shocked. And like, and when I didn't even think he would, like, I thought he was incorrect because
Okay.
there's no water that flows there. But Tim says that he went there during a heavy rainstorm and there was water flowing. So it's not like there's like
You
a.
wouldn't necessarily be aware that there's not so much.
I would defer to my attorney. I
Describing
don't
it.
want to make any statements about what the attorney knew or didn't know, but it's not on my land title.
I got you. Hold on.
I just want to ask staff if, since the, I know originally that we had it, but since you got in contact with, it should have been cooperative in working with staff to rectify this violation.
Yeah, it's been going on for, I think over about 1.5 years now, since the initial violation. But she has been in contact and cooperative.
Since the application was submitted, she has
I understand what I'm supposed to be doing now. I didn't really get it before. I'm sorry.
I'd like to make a motion that we, and I understand a bit of the background, and I've seen the property clearly. That fee waiver be reduced at least by 50%. I think that
Why
would
don't
be
we just
fair.
waive the compliance end of it and take the activity fee, that, I think that's about 50% of it.
Alright, so
That makes sense.
You wanna amend that motion?
Yes.
Okay.
You wanna
Withdraw
When
that
do you
motion.
guys need that money back?
I don't know which is
Okay.
the lesser of the two costs.
Let us. Probably.
I'll withdraw my.
Commissioner Fain, would you like to make a motion?
Okay, the fee, I make the motion that we require the fee, which is $3,500 for the wind and water disturbance or dredging, another $200 for landscaping, and another $5,000 for the inland wetland permit fee, along with the $60 state fee, and we waive the violation corrective action fee of $87.
Okay, that's the motion. Anybody second?
When do you need the money by?
You can talk to staff about that.
Worked out a payment plan.
Oh, you can work out a payment plan? Okay, that's totally fine. And I can do it as long as I have like 6 months to do it, for sure.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, that's all around, okay? And now we can discuss the application itself. Is anybody helping you? If you have any soil scientists, any landscaper, anything?
$200 with the application to you guys, so like everything on the application is done appropriately by a soil scientist, a surveyor. I can't remember if you requested another, like I think there's 3 experts who have,
Okay,
like it's a correct application.
one of those experts tell you what plants to put somewhere?
Yeah, and that's my question, like, there's steps on the plan that would involve uprooting plants that have grown since the violation, cause like I've obviously stopped touching the area. And so like I don't know what the correct.
Right, so that particular expert can talk to our staff. and
Okay.
They can work out what's gonna go there, okay?
Look, there's a plan that was submitted with Yes, and it's dated, created by Land Surveying Services and dated 8/27/2024. Includes the mitigation planting. Plants included are red osier dogwood, white oak, wheat pepper bush, blue hazel, winterberry, and spice bush. I think it looks appropriate for this situation.
So then it would be sticking with that plan.
Yeah.
So Jay, when I look at this, are the colored circles really tiny here? It says, these are groups of plants?
I think they're one plant per circle, and then like if you look at like, it'll give you a little description of what
Mine
plants are
says
gonna go
5
there.
plants. So, everything like. This is 5 plants, not 5 groups of.
No, it's fine. The planting schedule is above there, you know, with the numbers of plants that they're
Right.
proposed.
I mean, staff
Staff is fine.
I think we've made a lot of progress. We have to have a cooperative owner. It's probably, personally, I think it's probably
The way that it was.
Any solutions to approve this
I
application?
make a motion to approve it, the recommendations from the staff.
Okay. Any second to that?
Second.
Okay. Yep, there we go.
Okay, Ted, you're still an alternate,
I'm not voting? Okay, never mind.
and so,
I'll second it.
Commissioner Fain is second. Okay, all in favor? Yes, all around, okay, so that's it, talk to staff and.
Okay.
And so, thank you for doing what you gotta do, okay?
Thank you.
Have a good one.
Moving on to applications for discussion number 2, M&T Bank, 1237 Stratfield Road, map 46, lot 28. Emergency repair of deteriorating retaining wall ahead of formal submission of inland wetlands permit. All right, hello, gentlemen.
Hi, good evening.
Get your names for the record and address.
My name is Cody.
Landscaping.
I'm Rick Palooza from John L. Simpson.
Okay, thank you. So you're here for M&T Bank? Okay, so this is a particular application. Right now, it's before us as an emergency repair. I'm gonna ask staff to see if there's any determination of an emergency. So just give me a moment, okay? Tim? Have you got anything from anybody that would determine that's an emergency?
Yes, we received a formal letter from the town engineer, Bill Hurley, which satisfies the definition in our regulations.
Okay.
Emergency.
And how will this work? So it's an emergency to start the work, and then do they have to come back with a full application?
Correct.
Okay, that's good.
So it doesn't get them off the hook of filing, just
Are
gets
you
them,
guys
allows them
aware
to
of
get
that?
started.
And how the process works? Have you spoken to our staff about how that will work? Okay.
They've been working on getting the application done, so it should be submitted for November.
Questions or just right into it?
Make a motion, oh,
Yep.
I'll make a motion to allow them to start work.
Under the emergency
head of-
repair.
For the emergency repair ahead of submitting an application.
Any seconds to that motion?
I'll second.
Rick seconds, all in favor? Aye, okay. So, you wanna say something?
Just ask. Who coordinate with to the limits of.
Staff.
Okay.
So staff are gonna be your point on this.
Okay.
And then, even though you're doing this, get the application in.
Oh, no, for sure.
Honestly, it's been 4 or 5 years that this has been happening there in that spot.
Yep.
But you have there's a specific definition of emergency, you have somebody who's a person who can tell us it's an emergency, and you got that, but don't silly doubt. All right.
We have-
Thank you both.
Yeah, it's only complete by December 1. I don't know if it's possible, but we're gonna try.
Talk to them and we'll
Thank
see if
you.
we can help you out. All right. Number 3 under 5 application. -24-0106, Marks 70 Long Meadow Road, map 167, lot 28A. Permit to remove earthen berm, repaving and modification of existing driveway, drainage improvements and landscaping within a regulated area. An appeal from Wetlands residents represented by Attorney Peter Ambrose was received by the department on October 3rd, 2024. So let's start with the Marks family. If somebody's here that can talk to us, and then we'll go. Names and addresses for the record. Hello.
Stephen Marks, 70 Long Meadow Road, Connecticut 06824.
Julie Marks, 70 Long Meadow Road, Fairfield, Connecticut.
Thank you. So what you got?
Some documentation that I would like to socialize with the,
Is that the first time you're giving it to us?
now I've submitted through the upload link.
Okay, so these just duplicate copies for us to have here? You have enough for all of us? Or is it?
They're part of the package.
Oh, okay.
They're black and white, I think.
Yeah, okay.
They couldn't really make it.
If you have extras, that'd be great.
Yeah.
So
1 or 2.
That's okay.
these are images of the flooding that occurs. Also like to present a survey completed by the Huntington Group that was done back in 2020.
Thank you.
And as I go through, I'll just pass out the documentation, if that's okay. For the past 6 years, we have documentation on file, working collaboratively with town officials, through conservation, engineering and public works to recalibrate and amend the contour lines for the water that continues to flow from the storm drains on the western side of Congress Street that follows the natural gradient down in front of our property. There was some regrading that was done, lines were shot from engineering. They the appropriate teams in Public Works had come and done a reading to ensure that water will travel through its natural elevation to the water course, which is clearly articulated on our property as evidenced by a survey completed by the Huntington Group. The elevations per the GIS topo mapping indicate 320 foot elevation in the front of our property. On the western edge boundary of 120 Long Meadow Road, the topo GIS mapping indicates a 322 pitch of elevation as the water makes its way through the contours. You will see that there is still significant erosion that continues to happen as water is following the natural elevation and pitch of the property. That water still continues to pool. For years, and Tim can attest to this, we have had up to 12 inches of standing accumulating water that the town has worked to remediate. Now, that water slowly makes its way through the water course, not at a rapid point of acceleration. Now, as evidenced through the photo imaging of our driveway, because we are in a wetland area, water will come in and flood through our property lines and contribute to significant flooding of our driveway, which has become a danger as we approach the winter months. That water will freeze and has created an issue in years past for elderly parents who are also caregivers for our children and not being able to make their way up the driveway. We have implemented a 3-point solution to remediate the water accumulation. The first element is to implement a 24-inch catch basin linked to an 8-inch pipe with minimal pitch that is going to evacuate in conformance with town regulated guidelines 5 feet prior to the water course into a 15-foot level spreader, which will reduce the velocity and flow of water as it makes its way through the natural contours. In addition, we're also going to be installing native plant species which will further absorb that water and minimally reduce any sort of inward flow into the town's naturally directed water course, which clearly resides on our property. There are some other indications that I would like to submit as far as topogeographic lines that will show as the water accumulates, it is going to start at a 320 pitch and then naturally towards the northwestern perimeter where 120 Long Meadow, 70 Long Meadow, and Congress, there's a property on Congress Street where 3 properties converge, and that water gradient will continue its path down towards 3 ponds that are located in an adjacent property, and that can be illustrated. This is our property. These are the contour lines showing the natural course of the town-directed water. In addition, I would like to show.
You're showing me the black line.
Yeah, these are the contour lines. This is the 320 pitch going to 316. The water will naturally follow its way down to these lines. This is another image for town GIS mapping indicated in the property boundary, the water course, and the differential in feet from our neighbor's western boundary line relative to the water course.
The neighbor is the one that hired an attorney and wrote the letter.
Correct. Well, the cover letter. And then when I be here, that's the neighbor. Now, the closest boundary to my neighbor's.
Before you get that, can you just kind of describe the activity that you're proposing?
Sure. So again, we're going to be installing from the driveway.
Can you show us on a piece of paper?
It's on the Huntington survey.
It's on.
Demonstrate it to us, and I think it'll be much clearer. So you show each commissioner.
So on the survey, we are going to be.
It's easy on the red.
We'll come down. So you can do it here and you're gonna have to do it down there.
Okay, yeah, that's fine.
Usually we get a big board and.
That's fine.
Yeah.
So we are gonna be running a pipe at 260 minimal pitch into a 15-foot level spreader.
You
5
should
feet
show
in
the
advance.
existing drainage pattern now that's.
There, well, the contours, all of the water, based upon the contours, is directed towards this water course.
They're going, it's going like this, not around.
Yeah, so normally it would go down here, so we're not adding any increased
Right.
volume of water, we're just
Redirecting.
redirecting it more efficient.
And does that level spreader, that's gonna be over here in this side?
That's correct.
Yeah, okay.
Like in advance, and 5 feet in advance of the water course for compliance with
Yeah.
town policy.
And that's the swale that already exists here,
That's
right?
And that swale measures between 5.5 and 6.5 feet in width and is at a substantially lower grade
Yeah, I
than
can see it.
than the
Commissioner, did you want him to show you down there what it
We were
is?
doing it while you were doing it.
oh yeah.
Go on.
Please, and then maybe just turn around and show the,
Yeah.
We'd like to see it all.
This is where
Sorry, can you get over?
the pipe is going to be collected into a 15-foot level spreader, 5 feet in. And then there should be plans for approval from conservation to help absorb any incremental water flow to reduce the velocity and acceleration of any water flow. But given the minimal pitch, we're not expecting.
And then does that, would it flow into the swale and go down the back and to the left and to the
Follow,
right?
it's gonna follow the natural contours as the town is already directing the water.
Okay.
And, you know, and as a result of multiple.
show the.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, this little skinny.
That's the water.
Can you see the,
You see? Yeah, it's on
We
the
have-
side here. Right, the water course is.
Yes, sir.
we have this, but can you show me where the plate is? That's good.
This is
The red line.
Here, we go. And then the second one, this one here.
that's not a pipe, that's just showing that's what creature.
Could you just point to me where the water course is?
This is.
Okay, it is. Okay, that's what I just wanted to be sure. Yep,
So those are the.
okay.
You know, position. Now, the other element I just wanted to highlight is the closest impervious surface from the adjacent western property of 120 Long Meadow Road from the water course measures 102 feet. And this would I be fairly confident there's not a foundation.
So you're saying from that point to there it's
102.
What's the elevation difference?
Both properties are at a elevation of 320 with a natural gradient as it proceeds down to 316.
But the water
But the water-
course dips
the-
down
The
pretty
the
far.
upper western edge of 120 Long Meadow Road for GIS mapping and topo imaging is at 322. So a higher elevation than where the water is directed. And this is the point of entry. This image, I mean, it's a little bit, this is the point of entry where it starts to make its way through, just sort of illustrating height and elevation of where that water is, you know, coming through. But you can see it from the topo image.
Just have a question for staff, if you done with your presentation?
Unless you have any other.
Yeah, I mean, I'm happy.
I just have a couple of things.
You have questions?
I wanted to ask staff first, if they could give us a report on the engineering aspect from engineer.
Okay, sure.
Yeah, we don't have a written report from the engineering department, but they did discuss with engineering, and engineering approved that as, before you even came to us with it, they discussed it with them.
Would it be possible to get something for the record?
Something should be in writing.
So, And I'm sure they'd be going through engineering it when they did the work to get their engineering permit, but we can get that in writing.
Okay, but go on. I just like to get the other point of view.
I wanna, so this is the applicant first, and I want them to make their case, and all the commissioners now can have questions to the applicant. You have it.
Yeah, I do have one other question.
Go
Did you, I guess not to jump the horse here, but concern about the drainage going onto the neighboring property, that's correct? I don't say that it's happening, but I said it's a concern, right?
That's what's being.
Consider adding a small raised area between the two property lines to direct the water along so it wouldn't jump over, or is that something that you would consider doing?
I think that's what he's saying.
Yeah, it already naturally, it's already at a depressed elevation, and given the distance traveled and the way that water is naturally gonna flow following the contours of the property line and confirmed with engineering, there's no possibility of water overflowing coming up the embankment of a significantly depressed swell, traveling 100.
That's what I just want to know. Okay.
Yeah. So, commissioners, anything further for the applicant? No. So then now I'll turn it over to counsel.
Thank you. My name is Peter Ambrose. I'm a lawyer here in Fairfield. I'm here tonight on behalf of Tim and Kathleen Swalen, who live adjacent to their property, the Marks' property. My clients have experienced for many years a significant water stream that comes from westerly portion on the data accumulation map that you have onto their property. It follows the wetland water course into the easterly side of their property, where you'll see that fair amount of the wetlands area. The problem has exaggerated or become worse over a period of time, and the runoff comes onto my client's driveway, and works to the back of his house and seeps into his basement. Concern he has is that the plan submitted by the Marks is only going to accelerate the problem he has with his house. He has I'm going to point out to you several things that have occurred over the past a year and a half, which it's upsetting to my client. I've got certain photographs I'd like to submit. I don't have 12 of them, but I have 2.
Sure.
And the first 2 photographs that were taken show the drainage system that was started on my client's property by their excavating company without a permit. It was on their property, but it ran across the front of their property. Yes, so that's in front of their property directly towards my client's property. They've done that without a permit. I've got photographs of the equipment. That was used to install piping, again without permission from the Conservation Department. Again, I've got photographs that reflect what happened to their driveway, or there's a berm. There was work performed on the Marks' property by their contractor along the driveway section without permits. My client saw the equipment being installed and called the Conservation Commission and said, hey, this isn't right. I mean, he recognizes that he has a problem. Yeah. And, this is all done without permit. There was also a pipe that led from near their driveway into the stone wall, which since has been removed or capped over. And so it's no longer exerting or elevating any drainage towards the front of the road.
May I ask?
Sure.
Does your client have any pictures of the complained water or flooding? Is there any, these seem all to be dry, but the issue seems to be when there's water there. Is there anything that?
I did, when my basement flooded, I didn't sit there and take pictures of it. I was busy just elevating whatever furniture was in the way.
Well, how about outside? You're saying that there's
Came
water
across the driveway, no, I did not take a photo of it, but anyone from the commission can come to my house and they can see the water line where the water came in and the fans that I used to mitigate it.
So a quick question, so when your basement, well, first of all, is there a basement area under your garage?
No,
Okay.
no.
When your house flooded, did it flood from above ground or did it flood from?
But from above ground. It was water that came from this shared seasonal stream that's between our two properties. It overran its banks, came across the driveway, pooled in my front yard where the oil tank used to be. So there is a little bit of a depression there. And then the next day it's a slow process, but it did come across, pooled in my front yard, and that seeped into my basement.
Just to be clear, the water came from here.
Yep, further closer to the street.
Over here.
Yep, right,
Came-
yep,
And it came
right across the driveway.
150 feet.
It flowed 30 feet towards where a walkway used to be and a oil tank used to be, because my
That's here?
front yard is depressed there in front of,
Right here.
yeah,
Okay, or here.
right there, yes, right there.
Okay.
And then the next day it started seeping into my basement.
So when it pooled here, the pool overflowed.
Well, the pool went into the ground and found its way into my basement.
Okay, so that's what I was asking. Did your basement flood from above ground? In other words, was your house, was the water that was coming into your basement coming from above or below? Percolate.
I don't know. I would think it seeped in and percolated in.
It's not coming in through a basement.
Yeah.
It's not coming through a basement window. It's from the ground.
That's what I was asking.
I think what's been presented here somewhat tonight, one of the items that will be there is called this level spreader, which is water goes there at a force and then it's spread out. Plus with the plantings, that might be an indication that it'll be mitigated.
Couldn't hurt, but this swale is not innocuous in our eyes, okay? It looks good on a line on a map. It looks good as a depression that could handle the volumes. I've never even heard the volumes that are supposed to come through this pipe, but it's a raging creek when we get these heavy rains, which we've gotten the last 3 years, okay? And that's why. All right, so I'll tell a little bit of you just take 5 minutes if I'd like to tell a little bit of my tale then, okay? So members of the Conservation Commission.
Can I ask one question
Yes,
first?
sure.
When did all this occur, this stuff in here? Is
That occurred last month or June.
all that you're talking about is kind of recent?
No, my problem,
He's asking, when did these photos take place?
June.
So, and these problems are,
No, my flooding started 2 years ago. Happened 2 years ago.
okay, I want to hear the rest of your story, but just as
That's
a,
fine.
coming in the back of my head,
I will
clear how you're attributing it to what
And I'd
this
like to-
activity.
Okay, well, I will make sure I make that a salient feature, okay? All right, members of the commission, thank you for your time and consideration, the opportunity. If my neighbor's guilty of any one thing, it's his constant unwarranted trust in his contractors and their promise that they will deliver that which he seeks. Okay, there's been a series of projects over the years, starting probably, my guess, 8 to 10 years ago. Project 1. Yes, Mr. Marks, we can remediate the excess water swamping your front yard. We just need to regrade it here, pointing it down from your stone wall to the feeder creek to the shared seasonal stream in the front of your property along the street, and will regrade the front yard towards your house to move it away from where it swamps right now. Project number 1 happened, fine. I think it's 10 years ago.
Okay, I don't wanna go too far. So there's clearly problems with water here. He's trying to fix it. And he's presented an application here tonight, right? Please discuss his application and where it is deficient. Please, counsel, if you wouldn't mind. I don't wanna go.
Our concern, no,
That's fine.
our concern is that their project, their intent to alleviate their problem is only going to increase the water that seeps onto my client's property. It's only going to enhance the amount of water in the water stream. I mean, you can see from Huntington's map, the wetlands, and the wetlands, the significant wetland that affects my client's property is right near his border, which heads north from Long Meadow Road into his property. And he's concerned about additional rainwater. They have a Caltech now on their property. It's on the westerly portion of their property, which I trust has assisted and helped to some extent. But there's no mention of their installing any further Caltechs that might alleviate or mitigate the seepage problem. And I understand that they've got a problem, but we are trying to eliminate an additional problem.
Commissioner Fain.
I don't think we're gonna solve this tonight. We need additional information. We need at the minimum opinion from the town engineer. I would suggest that we get a copy of the town GIS topographic information for both properties, so we could review the topographical differences and understand that.
I'd like the sidewalk here.
The sidewalk, but I do also wanna mention to Mark, drainage, that's the number one concern when we get at this. Not infrequent, it's every application. You would, first of all, it'd be nice if you could kind of talk together and work out something between you before that. But if you can't, if you get a professional to give you opine on what he thinks the impacts are, because that, and ultimately, we're gonna need to look at a professional.
Just clarify a few things that they said.
Couple quick points for the commission. One, the work that has been photographed, Hill Tolman is here from Tolman Excavation, very reliable, reputable.
Right, not a professional engineer.
Not
I'm a professional drain layer, and I'm 30 years in the business, and when I did meet with Huntington, I did the construction pass with Huntington. You don't need a permit, there's an existing pipe, an existing.
Well, you can't tell we don't need a permit.
Well, I was told by Scott from engineering that if you're repairing existing, and I've been doing it, if repairing existing drainage that went across the front yard, you don't need a permit. We weren't enlarging pervious area, and the driveway is up gradient of that. Their whole lawn slopes that way, so even if the driveway didn't have curbing, all of that water is going to go to that natural swale along the property that takes all of.
Come and testify.
Yeah, please, I'm gonna stop this now, because I think this is not appropriate for discussion. I think I'm gonna set this down for a public hearing. You present your information, how you wanna present it with your experts. One commissioner here has pretty much directed you to get some experts that you feel that might be appropriate, whether it's a engineer or some person. Council, you've been through this before, you will be then providing us information to counter whatever they have. I don't think this is gonna be a discussion application.
I would like to say just a couple of things, please. One, we're at the same water table height.
Okay, no. Tell us all of that in a public hearing. And anybody who wants to support you can come and support you with the information that you'll provide us. And anybody who wants to oppose that application, can oppose that application, and then we will then have the proper information started along the path. But this information simply isn't enough for us to make an informed decision.
It'll also allow us time to come and do a site visit. Eyes on it.
That's what I was, can we clarify just a few things?
Not right now, we have a long night, and this is gonna take a couple of months, I can tell. And so please prepare yourselves, and then you'll be able to prepare us, as will counsel prepare his clients to provide information to us. And hopefully this will all get resolved. Nobody's saying that it shouldn't work together. You really should work together to resolve it.
Legally, we are not allowed.
Can I, so
You can speak to counsel unless, you can speak to counsel because they're represented. If you have your own counsel, your counsel will speak to counsel. So I don't, Attorney Ambrose has been in the town for a long time. He's a very well-respected attorney. I don't believe he said, don't talk to me ever. So,
And you don't need to get an
Yeah.
attorney, let's just be
Right.
clear, but you can exercise that option.
we're not looking to expedite this into,
we just want the
Thing.
correct
we
information.
need a functioning driveway. It's gonna be winter. My parents cannot come into our home. It becomes a sheet of ice. So now this is delaying us another whole season where my parents will not be able to park and safely enter my home. And we keep calling it a shared water course. The water course is on our property. The day that he took the photographs, he harassed me. I have a police report.
Wait,
I really don't wanna, so that's not what we're here for.
It's
So-
not, I agree, but that's what they're using against us.
And this isn't a public hearing. This is just simply, was supposed to be discussion. In a public hearing, you'll be able to say all of that as much as you want, okay? So, when's the next meeting?
Sidewalk.
Well, we also need a sidewalk and the next meeting.
Let's get to the sidewalk.
and it's possible that this can be resolved
November 6th.
before we reach temperatures, likely reach temperatures where you'll have a frozen driveway.
I hope so,
Did you also receive my response to the petition letter? I sent
because
it.
we took it line by line and we have our responses.
Send,
To
Sent it.
yeah,
we
then
have
we
it,
have it.
This.
We'll discuss the sidewalk and then to do public hearing.
Yeah.
Just in case.
Yeah, I second it.
So Commissioner Fain has a motion to make this a public hearing and Commissioner Shea seconds it, all in favor? Yes, and
Do you have training?
November 6th is the next
Doing research into this problem because we're hoping to remediate it this
Yeah,
evening.
we've pulled 26 permits on our home.
Will November 6th be enough time for both sides to wrangle up your experts and prepare for a public hearing?
November 26th?
6. Yeah, that's a few weeks away, so
I mean, we need, yes.
if you can, if you can't,
I'd like to do a site walk as
we will
expeditiously as
do that
possible.
before that, that's us.
It's a way to
We will do
resolve
that.
this in advance of that. I would-
Yeah, the sidewalks in advance, we'll talk about that later. I just want you to have enough time to get your experts, okay? And if for some reason November 6th doesn't work, just talk to staff and don't put it on the agenda, that's fine, okay? Is that okay, commissioners? Fine. Yes, okay, thank you, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I want to hear your people. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
We are moving on to Roman numeral 6, bills and bond releases, nothing there. Roman numeral 7, legal enforcement actions, number 1, so 30 Laurel Brook Lane, 171 lot 1A. Notice of violation issued to property owners for conducting an activity in a regulated area. Easements without
That report came to the department by a nearby resident that worked within the water course to culvert the water course to create a bridge and grading within the riparian buffer, clearing, et cetera, was performed on a Saturday. So I issued that NOV and have since spoken with professionals representing the property owner who are in process of organizing and submitting a permit.
Okay. Commissioners, any questions, comments? No, okay. Number 2, Jacinto, 36 Chestnut Street, map 128, block 149, notice of violation issued to property owners for conducting a regulated activity in a regulated area without a permit.
This NOV was a month or two ago issued for construction of a masonry retaining wall and fence adjacent to a wetland. Also dumping on a third party's property, which was the regulated also part of the area. NOV went unanswered, therefore issued an order this week and will result in a show cause hearing next Wednesday night.
Okay, thank you. Number 3, Pilot House Special Needs, 1230 and 1260. Northern Plan, map 220, lots 11 and 12. No violation issued to property owner for conducting significant activity in a regulated area without a permit.
This was recently issued a recent NOV and subsequent cease and desist order. This call came in last week to the department due to the amount of large dump trucks on Merwin's Lane. I investigated with the zoning enforcement officer to find that anywhere from 500 to 800 or more cubic yards of asphalt millings have been dumped in wetland, up to 4 feet thick in some spots. Clearing for parking, but they are adjacent to Sasko Brook. Remove the riparian buffer, and basically to create parking and driveway improvements at the horse farm. My concerns are the location. All was done without a permit, but also road millings are high in pHs and other contaminants, which is not good. So that will also result in a show cause hearing next Wednesday night.
Okay, very good. And we're moving on to number 4, Fairfield Housing Corporation, 980 High Street, map 77, lot 340. This matter, we had denied this application. It was appealed by the applicant. The memorandum of decision came out on September 19, 2024. I'm gonna read a statement that's just a statement from the Conservation Commission acting as the Inland Wetlands Agency, and then this statement will be on the cloud for anybody to read tomorrow. The Town of Fairfield Conservation Commission, individually or when acting as the Inland Wetland Agency, the Commission is continually striving to uphold the duties conferred upon it by state statutes and by town regulation. Its main duty is to regulate activities in those areas that are or are near inland wetlands and waterways. The Commission is comprised of dedicated individuals who sincerely and in good faith seek to uphold those duties. Each Commission member brings their learned experiences with them and provides a unique outlook on each matter that is before the Commission. It is immaterial how a matter comes before the Commission. Each Commissioner uses the information presented by an applicant, by staff, by other experts, by the public, and of course, their own learned experiences to vote as they see fit on each and every application. The ultimate goal being the protection of the inland wetland and water sources of the Town of Fairfield, which are indispensable and irreplaceable. Recently, an appeal of a Commission vote to deny an application by the Fairfield Housing Authority to build an affordable housing development under Connecticut General Statutes 30G at 980 High Street was decided in favor of the applicant, the Fairfield Housing Authority. The Commission respects the decision of the court. However, the Commission will continue to vigorously uphold its duties to protect the inland wetland and water courses of the Town of Fairfield. A motion to approve the application of the applicant. Commissioner Hood, seconded by Diane Saunders. All in favor to approve?
It's a motion of, this is kind of a support of the motion.
Yep.
Yes.
Yep.
I vote.
All in favor? Yep, all around. Okay, congrats. All right. Now we're in our public hearing section. So, Moving early, public hearing, one, map amendment application, Feudal, 600 Catamount Road, 217, parcel 32. Request to amend town map K7 to reflect ground conditions. Maybe made, the hearing is concluded, the hearing may be continued. The original 35-day public hearing timeframe to complete the hearing ends November 13, 2024. A 65-day time extension may be provided by the applicant. For further public hearing continuations, January 17, 2025 are possible, but a potential continuation date is November 6, 2024. If the hearing is completed, the agency shall make a decision within 35 days. Pending receipt of public input, staff recommends approval of the map amendment request. Hello, how are you? Name and address, please.
Yeah, my name is Stephen Keedle, 49 Beard Street Parkway, Trumbull, Connecticut. And I'm here to represent the owner of 600 Catamount Road.
Okay, great. Open the public hearing. Okay, public hearing is now open.
Again, my name is Stephen Keedle. I'm here to represent the owner of 600 Catamount to request for a map of wetlands based upon conditions on the ground and based upon two soil reports with Mr. Kenny provided one of the reports, and we also have a second report as well.
Okay, I'll start with, and it's not in particular, it just when we did do a site walk, so the commissioners go out and do site walks. There was no indication anywhere about where this was. I know there's usually maps when there is wetlands, but in this case, it was the opposite. We weren't sure what to look at, and we did our best to determine what was there. But of course, the soil reports indicate what they indicate. But it would have been nice to know where the area was. And that's not so much just for you guys, just for the record that if somebody were to bring another map amendment because there's no wetlands, let us know what we're looking at. Okay, commissioners, any questions for the applicant? Okay, anybody here in the room or online that'd like to speak in support of this application? Anybody here in the room or online that'd like to speak in opposition to this application? Okay. All in favor of the map amendment? Motion. Yeah, motion to approve the map amendment. Commissioner Bowen and Rick seconds. All in favor? Yes. All around. Okay, thank you. Okay, thank you. All right, so with that, Ted, are you still there?
Yes, I am.
Record, Commissioner Fain has to leave the meeting for the remainder of the docket, if you will. I'm appointing Ted Buxinger as a full member of the meeting and can vote on in these matters, the public hearings and everything else. Okay, Ted?
Okay, thank you.
All right, so we're moving on to number 2, WP-24-0087. Akpatov and Tina, 2560 Congress Street, map 153, parcel 1A. Relocation of a water course, construction of an addition with associated site work within a regulated area. Decision may be made if the hearing is completed, or the hearing may be continued. The original 35-day public hearing timeframe to complete the hearing ends on November 13, 2024. 5-day time extension may be provided by the applicant. So further public hearing continuations to January 17, 2025 are possible. The potential continuation date is November 6, 2024. If the hearing is completed, the agency shall make a decision within 35 days. Pending receipt of public input, staff does not recommend approval until additional information is provided for review and discussion. All right, who is here for this applicant?
Alexandra Mock.
Oh, you're okay, Alexander. Very good.
I would like to share my PowerPoint presentation with you. Share. Okay. Good evening. My name is Alexandra Mock. I'm a wetland and soil scientist and also landscape designer. Tonight, I'm going to be presenting the application for 2560 Congress Street, and this is for residential addition. My apology for this blurry picture of the area photo taken from the above, and what we can see outlined by the red line, we have 2-acre site, which as you can see is mostly wooded along the edges, and you can see that there's only relatively small clearing, which is being maintained as a lawn. We're going to be discussing later on 2 wetland areas. Both of them are off-site. So one of them is located here within this wooded section. And the second one is kind of a little bit off. It's a pond, which is also located off-site. The area slopes towards the west and also towards the east. Towards the road, a portion of it. This property is located within the Crooker Brook watershed and AAA residential zone. Here are the better picture of what the wetlands are. So we have a pond which is off-site. There's a driveway here, and then we have a kind of small red maple swamp, which is a wetland corridor off-site over here. Those 2 systems are connected by a pipe. It is unknown when the pipe was installed. It is unknown what the function is. One would assume that this wetland overflows to the pond because pond is located lower than this wetland. But from pictures here, actually, I would like to go back to the wetland areas, because with the wetlands, you always associate 100-foot upland review area. And here in the orange, I have shown the upland review area. And also, this is the upland review area for the pond. Here, let's go take a look at the closest wetland to the activities, which is the one off-site. It's not the pond, but the red maple swamp corridor. And you can see that this is a stone wall. The stone wall is along the property line, and while looking from the property into the woods, you can see that this is pre-wooded area with a few shrubs, not that many, and some of the herbaceous ground cover. Here we can see this from the wetland. I'm standing inside the wetland, and I'm taking pictures of this wall, and I wanted to show you that the pipe is somewhere here, but it's underneath the leaf litter and accumulated over time sediment. So I'm not sure whether or not this pipe actually works. Most likely has been clogged, is old. And here we have the middle portion of the property, and you can see that there is no clear channel here. This wetland is pretty wide, and it looks like the water flows here during the wet season, but it's not confined to the defined channel. And here's the end of this wooded area, and here's another neighbor, and also they have a stone wall here, and you can't see it because the area is blocked. There is a concrete pipe here, and then there's one which you can see. It's a black corrugated pipe. I'm not sure which this corrugated pipe drains, but it's certainly a stormwater because it doesn't flow longer than a rain event, and it kind of is directed towards the street. This is the closest impervious area which I can think of, but again, I'm not sure. The concrete pipe drains here, and it is certain that it carries groundwater because it drains. It flows longer than a rain event. Here's our map showing the proposed activities. So again, here's our swamp wetland, and here's the pond, and here's the pipe located between them. What we are proposing within the upland review area, which is here delineated by the 100-foot upland review area in blue, is the relocation of this pipe, because we are going to be constructing this addition here. As you can see, the pipe runs through this area and it has to be relocated. So 60 feet from the wetlands edge, we're going to make a cut and we're going to be directing a new pipe around the proposed slab of the new addition. Also, you can see highlighted here, this is a septic pump and septic tank. Here's the lateral, and this is the septic system. This is the reserve septic system. So the septic system is not going to be installed. Also, those two chambers are not going to be installed as well. So this is activity, potential activity for the future. Looking at the upland review area from the pond, and it's shown here in this blue line. So we are going to have limited activities. There's going to be a section of the pipe which is going to be encroaching upon this area, and slight grading for the proposed drainage system. We are offering a mitigation plan, and the potential, maybe I will go actually back. So the potential for any impact is always associated with during the construction activities, with the construction phase. We're going to have this area disturbed. We're going to have this pipe being excavated, and we're going to have new trench excavated in here. So this area is going to be disturbed, and there's always potential that some runoff is going to escape and is going to carry silted sediment towards the wetland. We are going to be preventing this from happening. This is why we have this silt fence over here, which is between the disturbance area and the wetland. And in addition, we have the stone wall, which is the almost second protection to the wetland during the construction activities. We're not going to be removing any trees from the upland review area. There are going to be 4 trees removed. They're all shown here, and they're outside of the upland review area. And also here, we're going to have some activities, disturbance, and here associated with the drainage. And we're going to have silt fence, which is proven to prevent any siltation moving towards the wetland area. The long-term impact is going to be associated with the increase of impervious surface. This is going to be the addition, but we are going to be addressing this 100% by the design storm infiltration system on this side of the addition. Also, we are offering a planting plan, and as per staff comments, originally I had only shrubs here, but staff commented that trees are also important, and I agree. And actually, when I took a second look at this, it is very important because the wetland, as you remember from the pictures, is very exposed here, and during part of the day when the sun actually penetrates through this area, it affects the water temperature if there's any standing water, and also moisture within the wetland area. So we are going to be adding 2 river birches, which are tall trees. So we are going to be increasing the biologically active surface of the leaves and branches of the trees vertically. And then we are going to have ilex, glabra, which is evergreen, inkberry, and this is going to be functioning throughout the entire season because of its evergreen nature. And with me today is TJ Engineering, and Tess is here with me, and she will be able to answer any questions regarding the stormwater management and engineering. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Commissioners, any questions of anybody?
I just have a comment. I think it just requires a site walk.
A site walk?
Yeah.
Okay. You did already?
Yeah. We have
Yeah, well, yeah. Site walk.
Okay, all right, so.
Yeah.
Unless
everyone else is comfortable.
Okay, we have 35 days to make a decision. Make decisions tonight. Any other questions or comments, commissioners? No.
So,
You want more information?
Yeah, and I think I articulated that in the staff recommendation. 4,000 square feet of new impervious while it's outside upland review is a significant increase. And my concern really is with stormwater management and the number of Coltex. There's some questions are unclear, and engineering's shared the same feelings with that level of detail that is lacking right now. Specifically, you know, one of my questions is whether the high flow of the Coltex is discharging back into the pipe, which would only, you know, create some level of detention time. I'm not sure what that would be. There was no soil data in the area of the Coltex, so I'm concerned with percolation rates. As Alex mentioned, they did address the planting plan, and also for the record on regulations, current regulations don't regulate the piped water course anymore as they did in the past. Really, my concerns are with stormwater management on the site.
Good evening, commission members. I'm not sure if you can hear me.
Yes.
Yes, we can.
So this is Tessa with TG Engineering. So I'm the principal engineer, and I prepared a stormwater management plan. Also, I did discuss. You know, I went through those comments because I just received them about a couple of days ago, and I called to the engineering department to the engineer who actually reviewed stormwater management. And so we went over every single one of those comments, and I prepared already a revision, but it was not uploaded yet because I was thinking that there could be some other comments or suggestions. But I wanted this evening just to go through whatever we discussed and how it's going to be addressed, if that's okay.
Would you like to share the screen? I will stop sharing.
Yeah, I could share the screen actually.
That's nice.
Okay. Okay. Is it visible now?
No. Yes.
Mm-hmm. So this is. Yes. So this is already addressed basically. So. First and second comment relates to basically engineering suggested that percolation rates maybe should have safety factor, and soil data was done. So it's you know, in the area we did as a part of septic testing. We went all through the site looking for better soils, and this one was one of the locations. So okay, so we agreed to use a safety factor, and also to include additional the parking area basically is in the same area as existing, but it's slightly reconfigured, so it's a little bit more, so it's 280 square feet more. So we will include that into the calculations, and basically as a result we have now 20 units instead of 14. So that was the increase. So calculations were updated, in terms of the pipe that's going to be rerouted so that it doesn't go through the building. So in my opinion, that was maybe not even because there is no drainage easement, and there is one of the structures here is water hydrant that is a part of this system. So even overflow, it would be probably not professionally designed, and probably just someone, just previous owner that installed, or maybe back in the day for farming purposes, or I don't know what. So, but in any case, we wanted to reroute just in case it serves some kind of a purpose. And instead of using catch basins, we revised to use junction boxes for cleanups. In other words, there will be no infiltration from the site for any kind of stormwater or any additional water was not infiltrated. It is not going to be infiltrating, and as a result, engineering was okay not to have any sumps or just to leave it as it is. So the same goes that for the comment number 5, I think it was that it is so very close to the building, but we wanted to preserve the trees. There are a bunch of very big trees that the owners wanted to preserve, not to remove it. So moving that 10 feet off the building is encroaching the system. So I want just to leave it where it is, and if in the future needs to be maintained or reconnected, or I don't know, then I guess it could be easily. It's not going to be disturbing foundation either, so it could be just a new pipe installed. And lastly, we are showing the separation distance. So now it's going to be not a catch basin anymore, but a junction box. So for piped drainage from the septic system, minimum setback is 25, so it meets the setback. And basically, engineering was okay with those revisions, but obviously we would need to resubmit and for them to review it.
Okay, thank you. Tim, these are the things that you asked for?
Yeah, we could review with engineering if they're satisfied. Does the subsurface drainage system connect to this pipe at all?
No.
Is there a high flow, high overflow outlet for the system?
For the stormwater system, overflow would be these 2 catch basins. So in other words, whatever is, so it's gonna be taking the runoff from roof leaders. And once the infiltration units fill up, basically, then the overflow would be through the catch basins. So yard drains.
Where?
So one is here and another one is there.
So they do go into the new pipe.
No, it doesn't go to the new pipe. So this is just yard drain, and another one is on the passage.
Where do they go?
Where do they go?
Infiltrators?
Yeah, where do they catch?
Ma'am?
Yep.
Where do the catch basins go to? Where do they lead to?
So they do not have the like they are catch basins. So the overflow, like I said, from the roof leaders, it's gonna get into the catch basin, go into the Caltech units. Once Caltech units fill up, they don't accept anymore. So basically through the catch basins, and that would happen because this is a limited amount of water. So that would happen only so for the major storm events, right? So for any minor storm events, up to 10-year storm event, there will be basically no discharge. So it's just the infiltration into the ground. But for the major storm event, and of course the conservation has that regulation that from the new areas, peak runoff rates have to match 2-year discharge. So currently we have less than 2-year discharge. So basically, once it would be 10-year storm event, there will be some sort of discharge from the catch basin, or let's say perhaps like this drain would not work anymore and would not pick up in because the Caltech units will be full. So let's say yard drain from the parking area would not be able to take in any more water. So the water would be just sheet flowing. That's basically how it would work. It wouldn't necessarily be working as water coming out, but it just would not be taking in any more water. So it would be naturally just sheet flowing towards the downstream, which is point of concern is basically this, that's where the water is draining towards this road.
Isn't the point of all of this to maintain the water and not, in those events to not, it sounds like you're gonna, in that 10-year storm, there could be flooding. That's the way it sounded to me. Was I wrong with that?
No, you're right.
No, so the way stormwater regulations work, basically, so and I could explain the big picture, and if we could, I guess, go into, well, anyways, the watershed that was analyzed, because the site is divided in 2 watersheds. So basically, this is one part, like whatever is on site, and then there is some bigger area that it is off-site. So all this water drains through the site, and plus now we are adding, let's say, additional roof area. So we analyzed basically what's happening at this at the discharge where the stormwater leaves the site. So what's happening at that point? So the idea is to not to increase basically the peak runoff rates. So whatever is that would be town of Fairfield's stormwater regulations. So what regulations say that for all storm events up to 25-year storm event, peak runoff rates need to remain as pre-development conditions. So we do meet that requirement because we analyze at at the point of concern, which is this area, and so we definitely decrease the peak runoff rates with the
I have a question for Director Bishop. Are you and engineering comfortable with the location of the septic system?
Of the septic system.
It's a question for Director Bishop.
Yeah, I don't have any concerns with future installation or nutrient or anything like that. I think that's fine. It's more of a health department.
So health department received the plans, and they basically just had additional comment, and they were gonna approve it. So
concern is the stormwater. I mean, and just to put it in perspective, this is 40. Correct me if I'm wrong, Tessa. The 40 by 100 is the proposed footprint
of the building.
Yes.
Yeah. Yes.
So 4,000 square feet. That's a
Right.
4,000 square foot house doesn't have a 4,000 square foot footprint. So this is a massive structure, and that's again my concern. With wetlands on both sides.
So mainly the stormwater runs from towards this asphalt driveway. So it wouldn't be running the other way. So it would be running towards the downstream, which is this asphalt driveway. And I guess it might even eventually be discharging into this wetland, some of it. But like I said, it divides in half. So half of it runs off towards the Congress Road, which we're not doing any development on that watershed. But the watershed that basically runs off to this direction, that's where the development is taking place. So point of concern would be like from this part to that part, this property line. And like I said, peak runoff rates are reduced due to the stormwater management. And in terms of what regulations, conservation department regulations require. So they say that that for the post-development 10-year storm event should be peak runoff rates should be should match 2-year pre-development. So my assumption is, of course, that we are talking here about the area that is under development. So which would be this building, this new addition, and this asphalt. So we took into consideration that part of the watershed to actually address the conservation department's regulation. We didn't take into consideration everything off-site that's draining, because that would be just outrageous if one would want to detain that water. We would not have enough site. But the area that is being developed, so the increase for the 10-year storm event currently is detained into the stormwater management.
Thank you. Okay, thank you very much. Commissioners, do you have any questions?
I just have a quick question, and I know we don't, the piped water course is not in our jurisdiction, but I'm still unclear. So nobody knows when this was put in and what this water is?
So, like I said, based on the structures, because it has a water hydrant, like this is the water hydrant, and this is the yard drain that is very shallow, and it's like 12-inch yard drain. And so, which means it doesn't really even have enough cover. It's basically just like few inches of cover for this 8-inch pipe. It is also not, it doesn't have any drainage easement, which normally that would be designed by the engineer at some point, even back in the day. And especially during the subdivision and whatever else, there should have been like some sort of drainage easement. And I did talk to the surveyor. He did not find any drainage easements. So we actually we tried to research what this pipe is all about, and then in fact I did ask the homeowner to do a dye test or to get utility locators, because we didn't even know where it is going. Like this was that's what we figured it out, because we just had this water hydrant and a small yard drain in the middle of the proposed building, and we had no idea where this is going or what it is. So the homeowner got some contractors. They put the dye in the sketch basin, and it came out in this pond. So that's how we know. But they were still not able to locate which pipe it was coming from.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Okay, Tim, do you have any further questions that you'll want answered?
I do. On page 4, of my staff rec requested a minimum of 8 native shade trees be added to the planting plan. I also requested a no-mow zone with no less than 15 feet in width, adjacent to off-site wetlands. And I requested written consent from 2 off-site property owners for the flagging. So I had concerns with doing work on other properties without permission, so wanted proof of that as well.
Alexandra, did you hear that?
Yes, I did.
Okay, thank you. Commissioners, any further questions for the applicant? No, okay. And anybody here in person or online that would like to speak in support of this application? Anybody here or online that'd like to speak in opposition to this application? No? Okay. We'll continue this to the next meeting, please.
Can I ask a quick question? Because I just heard that Tim is recommending 8 trees. And as you can see on this map, and there's a playground or play set for the children, and I think it's going to be needed at least for another 4 or 5 years. And this is one of the reasons why we're carrying the pipe a little bit farther. When I did my planting plan, I barely fit there those 2 trees because it's close to the playground and the children wouldn't be able to run around. But since this offsite wetland, the red maple swamp one, is not going to be affected because it's actually up the hill from the construction, could we plant along the property line, along the corner next to the pond, the remaining 6 trees?
Yeah,
because I
please.
think maybe this wetland needs a little bit more help.
Yeah, I wasn't specific on purpose of the location of the trees. I wasn't doing a total 2 to 1, but I count 5 X's in the footprint of your proposed building. So just short of 2 to 1, I selected 8. And due to loss of canopy and interception, I went with 8 and don't have a preference of where they go.
Okay.
So I would leave that up to
Thank you.
them.
All right, great. So this is continued. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Number 3, we're at number 3, WP-24-0089, Lentex, 520 Sasko Hill Road, map 231, parcel 389. Demolition of existing residence, construction of a new single-family residence with attached garage, driveway, pool house, shed, patios, landscaping, associated site improvements within regular area. Decision may be made if the hearing is completed, or the hearing may be continued. The original 35-day public hearing timeframe to complete the hearing ends November 13th, 2024. A 65-day time extension provided by the applicant for further public hearing continuations to January 17, 2025 if possible. The potential continuation date is November 6, 2024. The hearing is completed, maybe shall make a decision within 5 days. Pending receipt of public input, staff recommends approval with conditions. And welcome.
Thank you very much.
Please tell us your name and articulate it so we can have it for the record. Thank you.
Let's get things set up.
Sure. Yeah.
My name is Cynthia Philkoff. F as in Frank, I. I'm one of the applicants.
My name is Tim Keniston, Kenniston. I'm a landscape architect with Water Street Design Associates. use our little setup here, we got a couple of boards, so figure
Oh, that's-
set up now once and then we can.
More boards, better.
Just check the next.
That's good. I'm glad you're on.
You right? We had a moment, I just checked.
Good.
I gotta say, I'm a little upset. I'm a Philly fan.
Killing it this summer. Oh, congrats.
To the road.
Thank you, everyone. Appreciate bearing with us getting set up here. For the record, Kurt Lowenstein. I'm a licensed professional engineer in Connecticut with Land Tech. We're the project engineers in the office. I met the other two members of our team, and we do have one more that may speak briefly at the end from my office, Brian Carey, our Director of Environmental Services and a professional wetland scientist, to speak on some of the buffer aspects. But to get us started here, we have 520 Sasko Hill Road. This is a property that runs on Sasko Hill Road and Narrow Drive. The property is currently developed with a single-family residence, served by public water and septic system. The property is accessed off of Darrow. Continuing their access from the property does lie in a AAA zone, 2A minimum, just shy of 2. We do also got something called Fairfield, which we'll talk a little bit about later when we get into the regulated area. Area in particular that brings the 100-foot upland review area onto our property. It is an existing man-made, essentially a drainage conveyance trench on the country club property. So like I said, the property is currently developed, single-family residence. And we will be proposing to tear it down and build a new residence in its place. Roughly similar location for the house. Our development, you can see over to my left here. House is larger than what's there now, but like I said, generally the same location. Coming in off of the same curb cut, you come into an entrance parking court, passing through the porte cochere to the rear part or the secondary parking court where the garage is located. As we start to work our way towards the rear of the property, we flow out onto a series of raised terraces, landscaped areas. And then as we step down onto the upper yard, that's where the pool decking will be located as well. And then we tear down to the lower yard area, making our way towards the edge of the property, which is abutting the country club. As far as septic sewer goes, we will be abandoning the existing septic system and connecting to sewer. We've already gotten that thumbs up from the sewer department that there is sewer in Sasko Hill Road. So the system now is currently located in the upland review area. So we're pulling it out of there, which is comes out of the review areas. Utilities will all be public here. We'll be bringing utilities off Sasko Hill Road. The frontage of the property along Sasko is, as you can see, and for anybody that's been out there, it's pretty steep, it's fully wooded, so we will have a limited amount of clearing needed to get those utilities in, water, electric, gas for the new development. From a stormwater perspective, we do have an upland review area on this property. We are required not only to provide a 25-year peak storm event reduction, but also reducing the 10-year post-development conditions to the 2-year pre-development conditions, which we are meeting with our proposed drainage design. Essentially, all of the new impervious areas will be captured by either catch basins, area drains, slot drains that'll be some of the landscaped areas around the terrace areas. And that'll all be routed to a drainage system that will be located in that upper terraced lawn area. Consists of 24-inch and 48-inch depth concrete galleries. That system is designed to infiltrate the stormwater for larger storm events where there will be overflows. There's a manhole structure that will act as the high-level overflow, and it'll be routed down to the level spreader that we have proposed, which does lie within the upland review area. Essentially, we're locating it down towards the rear of the property along the abutting country club property. That level spreader has been sized appropriately based on the amount of runoff that will be it'll see during the 25-year storm event. As far as activity goes within the upland review area, it's really limited to the installation of this level spreader. There will be a small potting shed and a vegetable garden, ornamental garden of sorts, which you'll hear more from Tim a little later on that. And some regrading. The property now, for those who've been out to the site, there is kind of a little bit of weird flat hump area to the right side as you're walking towards the back of the property. And we're going to be just regrading that area just to have a more gentle slope making its way down to the property. Being that we are in an upland review area and we do have a regulated wetland source downstream of us, we are proposing to remove the existing buffer that's there now. We have some photos to show you, and for those that have been out there, you see it's pretty heavily populated by invasives. So it's part of our plan, and I won't get into it because I know Tim's going to touch on that a little bit more, but we'll be removing that buffer and enhancing it. We did see staff comments requesting a larger buffer than what we had proposed. And I apologize for, I know that you got that in your staff pack. It's pretty late and I understand, may have not a chance to review it. But basically we wanted to enter into the record why we feel that the buffer that we're proposing, which in many cases are actually meeting the 100-foot buffer. And then at Wade, I think the closest we are is about 59 feet. Given the site and given what from the country club property. But with that being said, the other thing I'd like to touch on is, soil erosion sediment controls for this during construction. Obviously, this is a large construction project. There will be a fair bit of disturbance on the property. So we will be providing a more robust type of soil erosion control than just your standard silt fence. Down the lower edge of the property where it abuts the country club property, we will have silt fence backed with hay bales to provide a little bit more robust barrier for any sediment that may migrate downstream of it. The intention is not to strip this whole site bare and leave it open. The project is going to be, worked in sections given the scale of it. We will have various stockpiles on site, so you see one giant pile of dirt there. They'll be moving material on and off site as needed as the contractor feels necessary. And other than that, I'd like to take the opportunity to let Cynthia Folkoff speak a little bit to some of the house design. While I know the focus is on the regulated area, but I think it's important to find out some of the architectural aspects of this.
Right. Thanks for time to be on the board here, and I just want to present very briefly the design of the house. These drawings are a little further advanced than the drawings that we submitted back in July, but if you'd prefer me to go through the July drawings, I can. So the design of the house is based on Belgian country houses. The existing house, initially we tried to save it, see if we could modify it slightly, but the ceilings are very low. And so we are basically keeping the same footprint and just expanding slightly on this side, the equivalent of a 2-car garage, and just slightly on this side. We're also expanding the parking court slightly, but for all intents and purposes, the
footprint of the existing house is only expanding a bit, keeping the existing driveway. It's a beautiful, beautiful site, beautiful, beautiful property with incredible views towards the country club and out to the harbor. So, you know, I think it's probably one of the prettiest properties in town. The existing house doesn't have a full basement, it just has a very small mechanical room. And so that's really problematic too. It's very hard to build a new house with just a very small basement. Let's see, I can show you a little bit more of what it looks like if you're interested.
Well, we don't have any purview over design for the house. I mean, we're really focused on the wetlands aspect of it and
Fine.
water and storm management and drainage.
Okay.
I appreciate it's lovely.
No,
I don't think I'll be able to afford that, so. But please.
well, when you can. Tell us.
If I commandeer one of your easels, by all means.
Just a quick question, that drainage trench, is that the country clubs?
Yes, correct, yeah. Yeah. So my name is Tim Keniston. I'm a landscape architect at Water Street Design Associates. So I'll start off here with satellite image, and primarily what I'll be talking about is that wetland buffer. So here's the site, 520 Sasco, and just west of it is the country club. You can see here, this line is that drainage trench, which runs south, pretty much parallel to the properties on Sasco Hill Road, all the way down to the tennis courts. So what we're looking at here is pretty much the northern tail of it. And, you know, there's a couple trees here out in the country club. This multi-stem maple is a good reference for some future photos. And right now, you know, really the existing vegetative buffer is almost entirely on our client's site. Pretty much everywhere else it's being mowed. And that existing vegetation swath is primarily invasive species, Phragmites, mugwort, porcelain berry. So what we're proposing to do is remove that invasive vegetation, provide a native buffer to the benefit of our client and also the greater ecology. So here's a photo from the site looking west onto the golf course, and there's that vegetative buffer there. As I said, we'd like to remove it via chemical application by a licensed applicator, following deep guidelines, and mow and mechanically remove. And I think this is an important photo because it gives context to that drainage trench. So this is just on the other side of the property. There's that multi-stem maple I mentioned, so that's just west of the property line. And that's that drainage trench right there. So as you can see, the whole area is being mowed and maintained as part of the golf course. So you can actually just pretty much tell the property line just from where the vegetation starts. And this photo was taken last June. This photo was taken this week. And as you can see, that condition has not changed. It's still being mowed and maintained as part of the golf course. And this is that vegetation swath that's on our client's property. There's the Phragmites, the mugwort, and it looks like porcelain berry crawling over the top. So to look at it from a plan view, this line here, there's that drainage trench. This dashed line here is the upland review area, the 100 feet. There's the property line. And this dashed kind of jagged line is the limit of existing vegetation. And everything that's in color on this diagram is proposed. So as you can see by the correlation of those two lines, we're not decreasing the vegetative buffer in any way. We're actually increasing it in certain areas. At the shallowest point, as Kurt mentioned, it's 59 feet from the trench. And, you know, there's other areas where it crosses over that 100-foot line and is greater than 100 feet, so it varies between 59 and 100 feet, I would say. In terms of area, that existing vegetative buffer is 8,900 square feet. Our proposed buffer is 1,200. And that includes this ornamental garden here, which would be a fenced-in garden with a small shed under 100 square feet to house garden tools. The beds would be raised or edged with organic soil, and any amendments would be organic to the soil there. And looking at the composition of the proposed buffer, it would be native species, a blend of shrubs and grasses mostly, but we are in the northwest corner proposing a Nyssa sylvatica, black tupelo tree, and all these green circles here that kind of run along the property line are just a blend of shrubs, bayberry, winterberry, plethora, and beach plum. And then in front of that would be 2 grass layers. This tan color would be a tall grass, Panicum virgatum. This green grass in front of that, which abuts the lawn, would be Descampsia or little blue stem, which is a shorter grass. And here's some photos of all that plant material that we are proposing. And we feel that, this is a good blend of native material that would offer a benefit to, the environment. The bayberry and the winterberry, they have berries in the winter for the birds. The bayberry's got great kind of low hanging branches that provides, homes for fox and other small animals. The plethora and the beach plum have a spring flower, which is great for pollinators, and the seed heads on the grasses are good for birds as well. So I think in conclusion, we're looking at it like that. Wetland, it's not some natural wetland that's supporting a great, habitat and wildlife. It's a man-made trench. It's being mowed. And the buffer for it pretty much falls on our client's property. And we're offering to remove everything that's invasive there, provide a larger buffer that would be native. And we think that'd be a great improvement to the existing condition.
That's the only part of the property that's affected. That we have to deal with. There's no other areas.
Exactly.
No, that's the only area where the upland area lies.
Why, or the formal structured garden, why there?
Yeah, I kind of agree on that. Like, that seems like an odd placement to me.
Well, we were trying to preserve the lawn. As Kurt mentioned, on the eastern portion of the property, it's sloped, it's heavily vegetated. There's retaining walls that pretty much kind of hold in the parking courts and all the garden terraces around the main house. And then there's the pool area, and we just want to keep the lawn areas open.
And the existing lawn, is that like a mixed fescue? What is the?
I'm not exactly sure what the seed.
They're not gonna change it.
No, we would look to match it. It's probably like a fescue, rye, bluegrass blend of, yes.
About an eco blend.
I am a little concerned about putting a shed and a ornamental garden in that little spot there. Like the shed has to, you put a structure there, just seems not ideal.
And my concern, other than just strange placement, is that if they're gonna be using, if the current homeowner or future homeowners are going to use any kind of pesticides, fungicides, insecticides in that particular formal garden, or if anything's being stored in the shed, I just hate, it's just so close to the wetlands there.
We would make it a condition of approval that they wouldn't be able to use anything that's not organic in terms of pests.
Yeah, I was gonna say like that, the thing about that is like, how would we ever know?
Hi, I'm the homeowner. I'm Lee Kirby. I'm so sorry. I promise I won't use any pesticides or anything, but I also do not do not want to have a vegetable garden there, if that is something that is holding you back from this proposal that we have.
But I do like that, in a way, I kind of like that it's there because it will keep your attention on that area where obviously invasives tend to grow.
Where the shed is, it's so close to the 100, to the line. Maybe if you turn it, is there a possibility of redesigning it to where the shed might be outside the area?
I think that could be.
You know what I'm saying? Like, so
just getting the shed itself out of the upper.
Well, I'm assuming that the design, that's grass or some sort of plant, right? Right,
in the shape?
Yeah, that.
That would be the bed, so that.
Right, so if you can kind of.
I see what you're saying, kind of turn it just to get a little.
Yeah, and then maybe the shed then is outside of that area.
Right, and if you want it centered, which I understand.
Whatever,
In
but-
formal English garden, just sort of maybe move it in a little bit.
Sure, and this shape and orientation is not
It's
set
not-
in stone, it was kind of a concept that's.
Right, I mean, where you want it, that's where you want it, but the concern it seems now is the shed and what might be in the shed.
Sure.
So if that gets out of the area and you're so close to it.
And our concern has to, our concern and our purview has to take into consideration future homeowners, right?
Sure.
We never know what people in the future are gonna do.
We know that Lee will not be doing that.
Right,
but
exactly, right.
She could sell the property.
Right.
We're sold on that part.
But we understand where you're coming from.
Yeah, I think it's just, for me, the shed is the hiccup for me, like having that structure right there.
I think that's easily resolved.
Yeah.
I think that's something we could work through with the shed out.
One suggestion I'd like to make is if you could consider using horticultural vinegar to remove the invasives, along with mechanical methods as opposed to using pesticides, glyphosate or something like that, so close to the wetland. Investigate the feasibility of that.
Yeah, certainly if we can, we.
Sure. Any other questions?
Do you want to articulate for me why you object to the 100-foot normal zone that was suggested? I just want to hear it out loud.
I think it's a matter of, it eats up a significant part of the lawn. I think one of the greatest assets to this property is the cascading lawn. And, it's beautiful to look over. I think the plants that are there, if it encroaches further, I think it does kind of change that view. Also, it's just lawn you can't use at that point, if it becomes no. I think, there could be kids running around here playing, I think it has value, being usable.
I would also like to bring up Brian Carey from my office.
Yeah, so I did submit a memorandum. We did get the staff comments. I'm sorry, I just received them Monday. I did prepare a memo, basically just talks about buffers, and the real reason that we were in minor disagreement, we agreed, if you read the memo, we agreed with all the other staff comments that they proposed. The 50-foot buffer, that wetlands functions and values are pretty low as it is. So, generally the higher functions and values of a wetland, the more buffer you want to provide it. We did go, Anthony Zemba from our office did investigate that trench, basically on the country club property, and really the only value that it's serving is sediment transport. And if you go out there and look, you can see that there's sediment that's in the sediment that's is in the trench, but it doesn't provide any wildlife habitat, educational benefits. So we did feel that with the improvements that were being made as part of the overall development and the planning of the buffer, which was well thought out by the landscape architect and really specific to the site, especially in the coastal plain, that it was providing the needed buffer benefit that would be required to maintain the functions and values of that existing wetland system. And I kind of spelled it out in a memo and provided a couple scientific citations to back up that hypothesis.
Would you go to 75?
I think again, we're maintaining the existing functions. I don't think there's really any need. There's no wetlands on the property itself. And again,
That's a no, right?
that's a no, yeah.
Okay. I want
So
real
you're pushing for lawn in that space?
Yes.
Yeah.
But we are increasing the buffer that's there now.
I think we're making an overall enhancement to the existing condition. And again, the country club has its own management of that area that is a country club and a golf course. So I think, you know, we are mitigating any type of impacts we would have to that offsite wetland.
Further from any commissioners? Tim, do you have anything?
Yeah, as staff outlined in the recommendation, our concerns are with stormwater management, which I think new impervious surfaces that were previously unaddressed for on-site stormwater management have been addressed with subsurface detention. I believe engineering was satisfied. Again, and lastly, our concerns are with the traditional manicured lawn on, I don't want to say steep slopes, but you guys probably know what the slope is. I have not been to the site, but knowing that part of town, manicured lawn, you know, for view shed, that has zero ecological value and arguably detrimental function with migration of sediment and nutrients during and chemicals during sheet flow from the rain events we've been having. I think I do applaud the invasive species management and the existing buffer, vegetative buffer, and the increase. But per the staff rec, the intent was to, if you look at their drawing, it's, in my opinion, not that much more to just compromise a little more within our 100-foot upland review area with either a no mow, or once a year mow outside of what's being proposed, just to add additional, to have less lawn, basically.
Tim, is some of that lawn on a steep slope?
Definitely is. It's
I mean, the overall slope of the
steep slope
of the road.
That's not by any
Yeah,
engineering.
I'm not calling it steep slope, but we know that the gradient is in that direction, so.
So how about a sedge instead of lawn? Slow down the water, it's green.
I do like the species choices that they presented.
Yeah, the list is good.
Counting anything that's being presented, I'm just, if there's an opportunity, now is the time to have something better.
And I'll just add that almost every application that comes in front of us, we encourage, there are certain things that we try to encourage where there's an opportunity, and one of those is limiting the impervious surfaces and asking for things like impervious driveway pavers, things like that. I haven't done this, but one of them is some kind of no-mow area. So while I applaud that you were getting rid of doing invasive species management and obviously replanting a nice buffer and it all looks wonderful, I would also love to see a no-mow area.
I guess maybe there's a little, we're not disagreeing with having the buffer we're showing as a no-mow area being demarcated. Where we're kind of splitting hairs is that full 100-foot buffer area being fully demarcated off. That's where
Maybe we should also, if your homeowners your clients want to chime in, we're not saying the entire area, but maybe split the difference or something along those lines where,
like perhaps where the belly is, where it's the shallowest.
Right, pull it out.
I guess part of I think that's something we could
Maybe pull it in the corner
And it doesn't necessarily have to be no mow, it could be low mow, I mean,
Right,
just, you know,
Yeah,
so.
once it,
Yeah, that I think, you know, we've discussed this with Lee actually ahead of this meeting, knowing that this was gonna be a topic of discussion and I think
And those
there is-
grasses, do those grasses need to be mowed once a year, tufted, the hair grass?
No, I mean, they should be cut back, you know,
Okay.
I wouldn't.
yeah, once a year is typical, if it's a, well, it's not a meadow area, but on a hill. A sedge is great for slowing down water. I'm just concerned about the velocity of water we're gonna see in the future, given what's going on right now. And if you've got a green area, you know, put in something that's gonna slow down the flow of water. That's good for everybody.
What about the level spreader though? Isn't that what's really?
So I guess what your concern is the overland flow as it's coming down the
Yeah.
lawn area there, right?
If it's a
So-
slope.
Right. So the buffer that we have planted, I guess maybe it would be maybe a meeting in the middle here if we could keep the general shape, right? Because that meets more in with the landscape design and, you know, maybe it's not pulling it all the way out to the 100-foot buffer, but could we, you know, pull that where we have the edge of our line forward slightly so that we can still keep the aesthetics, you know, for the homeowner and provide a little bit more function for the town.
And by
Would that
doing
be
that,
something?
you might pull that
Commissioner
shed out of the.
Exactly, that might give an opportunity for that as well.
Yeah.
I asked for 75 and got a no, so I think it should be a little specific.
65 and a half.
But if you're asking for a hard line of
Yeah,
like
that's
straight across,
Yeah.
we would like to maintain the shape that we are proposing with our plantings.
And I would say, I agree with you, I think it's a significant slope, it's not a steep slope though.
Yeah, this slope, I will not disagree with you on that.
Slope.
When you're staying there, it's a pretty significant slope.
What is the material that's on that strip where the stairs are that leads to the planting bed?
Between the two lawn areas there?
Yeah.
So right now, haven't officially decided, we had discussed in the office and with the owners that possibly being no mow, just because it's a 3-on-1 slope, you know, it's not really usable grass, so I mean, that's one area that we had just talked about being no mow in general. And that would certainly help, I think, slow down any runoff.
No, in that, it'll be that beige
I think
area.
it's that
no,
right
And then
where
the
that-
stairs in between it, okay. Yeah.
So this kind of, this area right here with the stairs going down it, you know, that's, we don't have contours in this plan, but you know, that's a 3-on-1 slope right now, so it's probably not gonna be easy to mow anyway, so we had.
Yeah, so there's some beautiful sedges, native grasses that don't need a lot of mowing.
Would the commission be open to a condition of if we made that slope providing some kind of no mow in there and then perhaps maybe bringing our bed on the lower side maybe 10 feet forward? To your point, Commissioner, that will give us an opportunity to shift that shed around possibly and get it out of the upland review area. I think that strikes a fair balance between the you know, the resources and the benefit of the home.
That proposed planting bed, will that be a flower bed, do you know?
These beds here,
No, the one in the middle of the yard,
in this one here.
what it leads to,
You want a pen?
the round.
This area, I mean, we haven't done a planning
Yeah,
design for
okay.
the rest of the property.
I like the idea of that being a no-mow area that leads to some kind of flower garden. I mean, it's just sort of keeping the consistency of pollinators and.
Yeah.
My only concern is, we have no jurisdiction over the lawn. I mean, like, we can't, like,
We don't,
that would
but it
be
would be
nice.
nice.
Right, it would be nice, it'd be very nice.
As a compromise if, you know.
Right, but I was just saying, you know, I'm a little concerned at, like, you know, giving up something on what we do have control over for something that we ultimately don't have control over. So I do think that, you know, I would like to see a little bit more give on that no mow.
Well, we do regulate the property, so if we have perceived wetland impacts, then
We
then
could.
you do.
Yeah. That's the area.
I mean, could we meet in the middle then if we bring the lower bed, you know, the lower line we have now, bring that forward 10 feet and then make the slope area in some sort of no-mow grass? Is something that,
I don't have a
you
problem
know,
with
as a
that.
I would love that.
condition?
Yeah, I don't have a problem with that, it's the commissioners, you know, if you have any questions, and then, you know, if you're saying that your client would be willing and you
Here's-
wanted to do
they
that.
are.
Well, Leah's on with us, so.
I do have one other question. The driveway, the parking court and the garage court, do you envision that as being pervious or impervious pavers?
Impervious, and the reason being is we did extensive soil testing on the site and there is shallow groundwater. So being that some of those areas will be cut down, if it is a pervious surface.
Good answer, it's okay.
Yeah, just curious.
Yeah. All right, okay. Yeah, so that's, are you guys all
Yep.
set on your end? Okay, so that's the applicant. Anybody here or online that would like to speak in support of this application? Anybody here or online that would like to speak in opposition to this application? Okay, we're going through the public hearings, unless somebody wants to go to a particular public hearing and vote if you're comfortable, otherwise we can,
I'm comfortable with that.
comfortable. Okay, so motion to close this public hearing. Commissioner Collins, second, Commissioner Boucher, all in favor to close the public hearing here? That's all around, I see Ted there. Okay, any discussion, Commissioner?
I like that idea of keeping that no-mow area with some sort of flower or something on that side, and then you just, if they don't wanna give, but a little bit more land, especially that area.
Commissioner, there was a number thrown out there at 10 feet.
Yep.
So I don't, if that's something you want to do as a
Motion. More than
motion.
10 feet you have to do it.
yeah, so you do it now and you make a motion, and it didn't sound like they were opposed to it.
Right. So motion to approve with staff conditions
And in
along,
addition,
and in addition, additional 10 feet, onto the no-mow area along that buffer. I add that we want to keep that no-mow, or is that, yeah, and then that
You can also ask for 15 feet. But the worst you can get is a
We're gonna move to troublemaker.
rejection. I'm just saying, it's like, we don't have to approve your motion, but if you want to make it.
you can make it. and then-
All right.
So where's the
Let's
left?
go for 15, I'll go for 15 with the no-mow and the flowers. And the shed being
moving the
shifted,
shed
and the
outside,
shed
yeah.
outside of that area.
Anybody want to second that motion?
I'll second that motion.
All in favor of approving that motion that approves this application with those conditions? All around?
Yeah.
It's all around.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Great.
That sounded like the price of right.
Thank you.
Feel okay? Do you want a break?
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, good luck.
Good luck, enjoy,
No pesticides.
welcome to Fairfield.
Thank
There are
you.
beautiful sedges out there.
Yep, we're gonna do it. All right, so moving on, number 4, WP 24 dash 0092 MK 20. I'm sorry, MK 2024 Family Home LLC, 680 Academy Road. I'll start over. WP 24-0092 MK 2024 Family Home LLC, 680 Old Academy Road, map 171, parcel 9A, corrective action, wetlands restoration within regulated area, including conservation easement. Decision may be made if the hearing is completed or the original 35-day public hearing time frame to complete the hearing ends November 13, 2024. 65-day time extension may be provided by the applicant for further public hearing continuation to January 17, 2025. Potential continuation date is November 6, 2024. If the hearing is completed, the agency shall make a decision within 35 days. Pending receipt of public input, the staff does recommend approval with decisions to restore wetlands and upland area, regulated area, and conservation easement, further notice of violation and order. Okay, Council, hello.
Hi, good evening.
Yeah, if you could tell us your name and for the record and all that, yeah.
Yep, Sarah Sharp, land use attorney, 135 Broad Street in Milford. We're here tonight with our mitigation and restoration plan to address the notice of violation from 2024. At the meeting, of the Conservation Commission on September 18th. You approved our request to conduct work within the conservation easement, including removal and control of invasive species and the planting of a mitigation and restoration plan. And at that time, I wasn't able to be here, but my colleague filled me in and I was able to watch the video. And you discussed that any substantive discussion about the restoration plan would be at tonight's hearing, which is what we're here about. And I just want to briefly summarize the timeline for the record and just to get us all on the same page. I know it's a late night, so I'll keep it brief.
Thank you.
I'm sharing on the screen now as a reminder. My client acquired the property in April 2024. The back portion of the property was severely impacted by invasive species, and she started to undertake efforts to remove those invasives in preparation for planting an organic orchard. In that process, she discovered a lot of really trash in the conservation and the wetland areas, and these are just a few pictures for the record. I know that you've seen these with conservation, but I wanted them to be a part of the hearing. These are the old metal debris in those areas, the dead and diseased trees that were overtaken by invasives, and again, more invasive and the dead tree limbs. So in June 5th, 2024, Director Bishop visited the property and informed our client of the violation and to cease all activity, and we did cease all activity at that point. The notice of violation was issued shortly thereafter, and we immediately started efforts to comply with that violation notice. We ceased all work. We installed interim erosion control measures by the June deadline as directed. And we filed an application for remediation that included an orchard plan and restoration by the notice of violations July deadline. We presented that orchard plan at the Conservation Commission's meeting in August 2021, and the feedback we received was that that the commission did not favor an orchard in this area, and with those responses, we made the decision to make changes here. It was with a heavy heart to do so. We would have loved to do an orchard here, but we ultimately have withdrawn that plan. And on September 5th, we we just submitted supplemental revised materials for mitigation and restoration only, which is the plan before you today. We withdrew the fee waiver request and the request for declaratory ruling on the agricultural use. And we have since paid the full amount of the fee, including for the violation. So with me tonight, I have Bill Kenny, our wetland scientist, to go over what he saw in the wetlands. And we also have Shane Duché at Artemis Landscaping to go over the mitigation planting plan. And with us online is Tara Vincenta, in case she's needed to pinch it, but I think we've got you covered here. So I will stop sharing and turn it over to Bill to share.
Good evening, Bill Kenny, Principal William Kenny Associates here in Fairfield, professional wetland scientist, soil scientist. We were retained to do a few things. One, go out and map the wetlands, and then also to assist the project developing the restoration plan, and also to do a preliminary assessment of the wetlands on the site. So we went out to look at the wetlands in the north end of the property. There's 3 areas, one on the west, one in the central portion, and one on the eastern portion. These are classic sloping wetlands that you often find on the side of a drumlin like round hill that we have here in Fairfield, where you have till soil put down by the glaciers, but you have a hard pan within a couple of feet of the surface. So when the rainwater goes down and it hits that hard pan, starts to run sideways. At some point it builds up and the slope might change and become a little less steep, and then the water breaks out and you get these hillside seep wetlands that tend to be wet in the spring, but then dry up often the rest of the year. So oftentimes, a lot of people don't, depending on what time you're out there, you may not even realize you're in that area. That's what you have there. It's clear to me, fortunately, that this area certainly was overrun with invasive vegetation. We see it unfortunately too often around town and other towns. So based on my experience working in town and other towns, although I was there after it was cleared, but looking at the adjacent properties and whatnot, it's pretty clear that it's heavily infested, and that the majority of the tree removal occurred years ago. That the stumps that you find out there, most of the stumps were older stumps, and that some of the fresh stumps I sure were heavily impacted with vines. Those trees were probably in significant decline, and I've seen too many violations as well. That the fact that the property owner saved some trees, that they just didn't go in and do a clear cut. Because if it was someone looking to just do a clear cut, there wouldn't have been any trees there. So that's been my professional experience with regard to violations. So one, you have sloping wetlands. Two, it was unclear to us that there have been invasives. And three, I believe the homeowner worked with very good intentions and tried to save what was worthy of saving, and was working primarily by hand, laborers carefully, and in a manner that was organic in approach, not using herbicides, but pulling weeds and using organic herbicides, vinegar, to help either kill the plants or to definitely decrease their growth. So that was the conditions and the debris that was described. Certainly there's been alterations on the property to affect the water conditions. When you have these hard pan soils and you have people uphill at you and development, they put in a lot of drainage for footing drains, and so there was quite a bit of pipes coming out of the side of the hill from properties uphill, which is very common over decades and decades. And so where the water flows out of that side of the hill certainly has changed over time. And then the amount of irrigation that was put in by the previous property owner is interesting. And of course, they put in this small little garden pool or pond along that water course. In
the 80s.
Yeah, it certainly doesn't look enough to be a irrigation pond, but so whatever. It appears to have a concrete lining. So that's our brief overview of the existing conditions.
Screen, you all have this in front of you as well, but this is the blown up planting plan for Shane.
My name is Shane Duche, landscape designer from Artemis Landscape Architects, 4 Washington Avenue, Sandy Hook, Connecticut. So to start you off, going off of what Bill was explaining, if you start, I'll kind of start us counterclockwise, starting from where the hand is here on this corner. So looking at the limit of the existing lawn, you can see that limit runs northwest up to this existing stone wall that is to remain. So that is the established limit of the existing lawn that we are working within. So going to the left here to this purple area, this is an area that we've designated as a kind of a planting area for blueberries. The client had asked for because she's interested in giving herself a vegetable area for her family. And then moving up north along that property line is where we start the border planting here. So this is all these are all native plants that are all shrubs. So these include the shrubs include Aronia melanocarpa, Hylos verticillata, Myrca pentagonca, Sambucus canadensis, Vaccinium corymbosum, Viburnum dentatum. So that runs basically along the property line here, along that northern edge, and brings you over to the, what I guess you would consider the northeast corner of the property. And then marked in the lighter green areas is what we're designating to be the proposed conservation seed mix. And the seed mix comes from New England wetland plants, and the species involved in this mix are all deemed to be Connecticut native wetland plantings. So then moving to the kind of darker green area, we've switched that to the New England wet mix, which is basically put together to withstand, you know, these more wet climates or conditions, within the designated wetland areas. So you can see that that's in that central wetland area, and then also along the right-hand side where we have that kind of water course that leads you down to that existing man-made constructed pond. So now that we're at the pond area is where we have more wetland species. So those include various grasses, perennials, and ferns. In addition, we also have an Amelanchier canadensis serviceberry. There's actually 3 of them. Those are called out as trees on this plan and should be called out as shrubs. Just want to state that for the record. So along that right-hand side of the pond there's an existing house and a garage on that just behind where the Amelanchiers are planted, or proposed to be planted, sorry. And those Amelanchiers are gonna serve to kind of screen out the neighbors a little bit and give them some privacy as well as our client. And then also in that pond area, just below the pond, where we have some 2 weirs that channel some of the overflow from that pond down into the water course below, down into the wetland of the adjacent property. We've also designated that to be also the New England wet mix within that area. Oh yes, so also we have so we've designated that there, and actually as Bill has designated, there were 4 trees removed by the client upon buying the property, which include an 8.5-inch caliber catalpa stump, which had some cappusing? Sorry. It was some cappusing on it, so we had some shoots coming out of it. In addition to that, there was a 19-inch caliber eastern white pine, a 12-inch eastern white pine on that lower portion, and then a 12-inch caliper eastern white pine adjacent to that. So what we have proposed, we've proposed a 1-to-1 replacement on the 1 stump and the 3 trees removed. Not of the same species, but we felt that 2 different oaks in this area, one being a northern red oak and the other being a white oak, would serve nicely to kind of bridge the gap in this area, being that it's surrounded by some other oaks. And then as you move down to the lower portion of the property, we have where there was 2 pines, where we're proposing to replace those with a sugar maple and a red maple. Also similar situation as most of the trees, just on that kind of L of the property line, just south of the cursor here, are all maples.
And I just wanted to highlight a couple of things. The area that's in the light green, that's encompassing the disturbed area. I know that you all have mostly have walked the site, so you're aware. The conservation easement B, other than mowing it once, which we were permitted to do under the conservation easement, we have not ripped out any vegetation there. So it is, you know, that's why you don't see any plantings in that area. The other thing that I just wanted to highlight, because I was at the Conservation Commission meeting, when we talked about, you know, what sort of planting might be appropriate in this area and sort of historical planting. What the notice of violation asked for is to restore this to pre-disturbed conditions. The pre-disturbed conditions were objectively not good. They were, it was all invasives and downed trees that had been left to lie and grown over with invasives. So obviously we don't want to actually literally restore it to that condition. That's why we've proposed these native grasses, and the thing that came up at the Conservation Commission was the idea of a hedgerow with, you know, a mix of species, which is what this border planting is proposed to do. It will also allow for a buffer between invasives on the neighboring property lines as we continue to maintain and control the invasives on our property, as we discussed briefly at the Conservation Commission meeting, and that was approved for us to do in the conservation easement. And I want to just turn that to Bill to sort of discuss what those invasive control measures would be. And then I think it would be appropriate to reduce that to a writing for approval by the director to make sure that it's all documented if this plan were to be approved tonight.
Yes, we would like to clarify everything for the long term because of the invasives, the need to maintain the area to some degree. So, and with the area being proposed to be primarily a meadow habitat, and with my experience, what we often try to do with the invasives is build them possible organically, either put a forest in and shade them out as much as possible, because they often, although invasives will grow in the shade, not as vibrantly and robustly as they do in sun. So either do a thick forest or do a meadow habitat that you control things primarily with mowing. Maintain a meadow, but it's something that you mow a couple times or so a year. So this proposal is to do that meadow with the fringe of the hedgerow, a mix of the native shrubs, and then scatter in the native trees within that meadow area. So wetlands and adjacent to wetlands of the meadow. To get the meadow established, because the native grasses and wildflowers take time to establish, that first year you want to mow that more regularly so that you don't allow things to get taller than 4 to 6 inches, because the weeds come in that shade out your natives that are growing very slowly that take time to get established. So the first growing season, perhaps the second, we would mow it more regularly to maintain that height of 4 to 6 inches. And then after that, we would request the ability to mow up to 3 times a year in the future to help control for things. And we would also be doing regular monitoring and adjust methods based on that, because in addition to cutting, we'd still do pulling, weeding, and also the use of the organic herbicide vinegar or something similar to that.
The easement itself, I think, allows for that. It doesn't? It's just once a year?
The easement allows once a year mowing, and it doesn't allow for what we're talking about. I mean, you've allowed it from the last meeting, and we just want to clarify.
Okay, very good. All right, thank you. And commissioners, anything? I have a few things. And it caught my eye briefly, and I'm glad I saw it. So on conservation easement B area, it's so close with the wetland line, and the CE is conservation easement. The blueberries are within the conservation easement. So I hope that was just, it looks like the wetland line would have been fine. But it looks like that little indent, you might have to reduce.
We can absolutely pull those blueberries out of the conservation easement.
Okay, and then there's been a real push on our end here, and I'll apologize in advance if it's gonna be an issue, but I think we'd like to see it. We'd like to see some sort of demarcation lines or markers or something. You have two, different conservation easement areas and they're just out there. And and it'd be nice to have something that would be either a medallion, a marker, a stake, something along those lines. And maybe it's, I don't know, it just.
Yeah, I mean, this gets into, it's not just for this homeowner, but future homeowners who hire a landscaping crew to come in and mow the lawn every Friday. They need to know if there needs to be some kind of visible border so that they know where it is.
That's and it's really, we, some of us have been out there, if not all of us. You almost can't tell, it's really difficult, to do that, and it would be nice, just right now, the limit of existing lawn, you don't know. Maybe a future owner, not your client, but a future owner could always encroach, so it at the very least, maybe not everywhere, but at least maybe some identified markers,
If you had a 6x6 post somewhere, it would signal you, hey.
Yeah, right.
It's like putting a stop sign up, it would be
Right.
something, I
So-
don't think you're talking about fencing it all off.
No.
Yeah, I think if the request is to have a visible border along the conservation easement, something that just delineates it, in the original approval that set these easements from I think it was the 90s, it's been a while now, but the original landowner was supposed to put in those markers.
Yes.
And he did not.
I remember that.
So I don't think that'll be a problem. I think that, it maybe not a fence, maybe not a post, maybe it's rocks, it's something that is clear.
Yeah, exactly.
I would hope at least one post somewhere on each one with some sort of medallion. Not all around it, but at least something on one, on each one, area B, area A, so you can identify.
Didn't we talk about having a stone, you could have the medallion set in a stone as well,
Sure, or at least something.
It would provoke the question.
Right, it's like, what does this mean?
Yeah.
Easement A and easement
Put
B.
people on notice.
That's
Yeah.
been done,
Yes,
the
yeah.
medallion and the boulder has been done before in this town, it's a long time ago, we were off the project.
Okay,
We've seen it a few times.
Yeah,
absolutely.
honestly, I don't have any issue with this, it's just those things, and if they're already in the easement itself, then we're just asking that you do what the easement says, and if it's asking to mow 3, 4, whatever times a year, I don't have a problem with that either. So I don't think any of the commissioners do, so. Okay, you're good.
I would only recommend to the agency that they establish as a condition of the easement marking an increment that's the agency's comfortable with, as far as every 50 linear feet or something, given the polygons.
The original easement wasn't that specific. I guess I would suggest that we could work with staff to have it be reasonable.
Reasonable.
I don't have my client here today
Yeah.
to speak with, and
Leave it at reasonable and,
I'm fine with that.
good folks here talking to each other can, make it reasonable. I don't wanna be super specific and I don't think it should be. Just the idea is that you can identify it some way.
Yeah.
And, I'm not saying stock rail fence or something, just boulder maybe at every point or something, something.
be done in an attractive way, and yes.
If you post a QR code on that post and you have a
QR
map,
code.
I'm happy with that, then I can mow it.
Right. Okay, so anything further, folks?
Don't have anything further.
Is there anybody here in the room or online that would like to speak in support of this application? Anybody here or online that would like to speak in opposition to this application? No? Right, commissioners, would anybody like to close the public hearing? Okay, Commissioner Bowen closes, a motion to close, anybody second that?
Yeah.
Boucher seconds it, all in favor? Aye. Anybody like to do a motion to approve with conditions?
I'll approve with conditions.
And would the conditions be?
The staff conditions as well as the identifying order of the both conservation easements and to staff's satisfaction and to remove the area of berry planting outside of that is inside of the conservation area.
I just wanna clarify to a reasonableness with the staff, the staff's satisfaction, to reasonableness with the staff. Anybody second that motion? Commissioner Mahoney seconds, all in favor? Ted, all around. Good job, and congratulations to your point.
Thank you very much.
This fly is unbelievable.
I know. This is weird too.
It's very personal. I'm like, what is going on? To remove the berries,
From
remove
the
the berry
conservation.
planting from inside the conservation area.
Okay, so we are moving on to number 5, public hearings, and continued public hearings, last time. It's WP 24-0059 Norwood, 120 Wakeman Lane, map 246, parcel 5C, wetland restoration area. Decision may be made, the hearing is completed, the hearing may be continued. 35-day public hearing. 11 on 2024, a 28-day time extension was provided by the applicant for continuation to October 9, 2024. An additional 37-day time extension may be provided by the applicant. Public hearing continuations to November 15th are possible, and a potential continuation date is November 6, 2024. If the hearing is completed, the agency shall make a decision within 45 days. The commissioners that are eligible to vote are Daphne Bowen, Richard Boucher, Jay Fain, Edward Singer, and Diane Saunders. Commissioners not present on September 4th were Lucas Thomas, Jerry Alessi, Kato Mahoney, and Amanda Mertens Campbell. I will state for the record that I reviewed the video record and the exhibits. So I'm fully up to date and I will be able to vote and participate in votes now. I'm gonna ask Commissioner O'Mahony.
I also did.
You did, okay, so we are all full constitutional here, okay? All right, sorry, pending receipt of public input, the staff does not recommend approval until additional information provided can be reviewed, so that part's done, please, thank you.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission, Stephen Walko, Ivy Barnum and O'Mara for Jay Norwood, owner of 120 Wakeman Lane. There were a series of documents that through staff that were requested. A letter from a neighbor, we since presented that, Eileen Apple from 100 Wakeman Lane. There was also a request for consent for use of work by Redness and Mead, the private professionals, and also William Kenny Associates. Also prior professionals, there seems to have been a lot of professionals having dealt with this matter. We've supplied both of those to staff relative to this application, and both have allowed that. Also, taking the comments from the last hearing very much at heart in terms of the relationship between the easement and the plan that's being presented. And so we went back to look at Connecticut aerials of the site. And in fact, the easement, the conservation easement is dated in 1978. You all have seen that. So through the Connecticut website, we pull up various photographs. We've done that and then also highlighted in particular the area of the lawn area. One of the ones we had to actually go out to, it appears that the state of Connecticut had outsourced the aerial photographs in 1975, and that's what we have here. This is a blown up version of this area of Fairfield in 1975 and oriented the same way, and you'll see this where the little sticky is here for the star. You'll start seeing some of the relationships of where this property is and where the is you have that tree grove that effectively hasn't changed since 1975 or 3 years before the conservation easement. And then the staff through our land use professionals, Land Tech, we gave a series of throughout the years, 2019, and in various states, whether it's spring or summer, or they use infrared on some levels. And so you consistently see that this area is, I'm sorry, right here. This area is consistently maintained as lawn, not as some other type of vegetation or otherwise, which presumably is why in the easement it does talk about, we've heard you talk with other applicants about no mow zones, but this particular easement talks about giving the ability to mow specifically or explicitly. With that, I'll turn it over to Brian Carey from Land Tech, and he can walk you through some of the changes that were made since the last discussion with you.
So thank you, Brian Carey, professional wetland scientist with Land Tech. I think we're making some progress on this. I know it's been a long time coming. We understand the violation, and we're trying to address all of the, we're trying to come to a resolution. Obviously, we understand there is a court date pending. After the last meeting, we did submit a wetland restoration plan. Land Tech got involved with this project in August of 2024 after a couple other consultants I know were involved with it. Since the last meeting, I did have the opportunity to meet with Tim Bishop and kind of discuss some things moving forward. Unfortunately, I just got all of the documents that were requested in a email, as Attorney Welko had said, in an email from September 9th. We did just get all of that together. I did submit a memo of October 9th today, and I'm sorry for the lateness. I didn't think.
I just want to make a quick comment about that.
Yeah.
That was really late for all of us. I haven't read this yet. I'm just gonna, we'll let you go through it.
Yeah.
But I'll probably ask you to give us.
So I'm just gonna give you a synopsis of that, because I had no intention that this hearing was going to close tonight. And I'm really asking to sit down and have guidance from the commission. We're at a point where I think we can come to a resolution, understanding we have a framework of a plan. And if you read the memo, it's just saying, it basically states that there's some things that were put out as far as moving the drainage outside of the easement area, no problem. Basically, everything we're in agreement. The two things I think become the sticking point are, one, the no-mow issue coming up with the area, because if you can look at the language directly in the easement, and again, I know that the commission's standpoint on this, I think that the property owner has a different standpoint on it. I mean, if you look at the language right there, I think it's pretty clear. And again, dealing with these are not the best written easements when they were put in place in the late 70s.
I understand that, and counsel, correct me if I'm wrong, I know. With that too. And our counsel is here as well. And I again, I will state for the record, I do every time I bring this particular subject up. I'm an attorney I do some real estate work, I do have come across easements in the past. Whether they're 50 years ago, 20 years ago, 10 years ago, 100 years ago, an easement's an easement and it runs with the land. So there was a statement made in the last hearing, when I saw it today, oh, it's an invalid easement. That is absolutely not true. It's absolutely not true. But maybe it was just a misstatement, that's fine. It was from you, but you're not counsel. So counsel, I wanna make it clear, I don't look at it that way and I don't think the law looks at it.
And I wouldn't necessarily disagree with you on that, and in fact, I would say that we should be guided by what the words say. And
that's a better approach.
And that's what we've asked for in connection with this application.
What does the reserve the right to maintain the property? What is that? You know, I mean, it for aesthetic purposes.
I don't see that in here.
So can I just, when I said it becomes enforceable because what I meant by that is if you look at the site, there are so many things that over time have been encroached upon and then legalized through other mechanisms of the commission back to there was the pool was built in the encroachment and then they legalized it in 1984 certificate of wetlands compliance. So I understand.
Sure.
My point is it gets to a point where the easement as it is laid out on the property is just, I don't mean it's not enforceable, obviously it can be enforceable. But some of the language, what I meant was from an enforcement standpoint is very hard to interpret to say, we don't want it to mow when it's explicitly kind of a gray area based on that language, whether or not it can be mowed. So that was what I absolutely, easements run with the land, they are completely enforceable. What I'm saying is that the easements that the way they are written now are very clear in their intent. They have a border put through them. But in this particular case, what is coming up, and there's no doubt there's a violation on the property. And that's what we're here to stop.
Alright, so let's move on with the violation. At least let's go with that. We'll talk about the conservation easement area and the mow thing last, because I think that's the sticking point for most.
Yeah, so the reason, the two things I was going to say that we need guidance on are, one, if we planted a 20-foot buffer in this area along the wetland line, including over 300 shrubs, which is basically and again, I know I just put that memo into the record, but using guidance documents, Army Corps guidance documents and stem counts and things like that. As a question of after the last meeting, Commissioner Fain was asking for some type of literature site. So we did do that. There was an expression said that we want more. And that's kind of where I'm looking for guidance. Is it 30 feet? Is it 40 feet? I think we can agree. And a lot of times sitting down and figuring these violations, coming to a resolution is really sitting down with the plan in front and hashing it out and saying, is this something that the commission is gonna support? Rather than me come back and move the needle a little bit every time.
Okay. So this is the latest plan, right?
So this is the plan that was submitted at the September hearing. Obviously, there's some additional guidance from the September 9th email from Tim. I had a meeting with Tim after that. Again, there's still some additional guidance that needs to be, again, the two sticking issues are the density and the width of the proposed buffer easement, and then the no-mow issue. Okay. And I think we can come to a resolution with that. The no-mow issue, again, I'm not up here, horse trading or whatever, but that is an issue for the homeowner. The way they see it is that area had previously and always been mowed, and if everything is being reestablished, if everything's being reestablished to what it was, plus increasing the buffer where there was no previous buffer. If they restore the area, why aren't they allowed to mow the area that had always existed in that condition back to when the house was developed and ever since they purchased the house? That is basically.
And the date of the easement.
And the date of the easement. So one thing I did tell Tim during our meeting was a lot of times when these easements were basically cut during the subdivision process in the early 70s. And when I said they're unenforceable, there's several issues throughout the town where similar things like this occurred, where houses were built in conservation easements after the fact. How that happened a lot of times, I'm not sure. But I understand the burden, again, to not just this property owner, but other property owners who had suffered the same issue. And I can provide lists of times that this occurred, where every time there's a title search or transaction on the house, the property owner runs into the issue that my house is in the easement. So now they'd have to come back to the commission. So a lot of times what would happen is we end up redrawing the easement in a manner that was more, I don't want to say beneficial, but it just lifted the regulatory burden for someone that it wasn't necessarily created. Now you have a violation here that obviously was created by the existing property owner, but the historical nature of the easement and the way it was placed over the property is creating a hardship to resolve the easement because there are all these other issues that have basically following along in the title of the land. So I don't know if that would be a benefit to the commission rather than take a poor easement, draw up a new easement, release that easement and put something on there that is, when I say more enforceable, it's more enforceable. It lays out, clearly where the easement line is. I mean, if you look at this right now, and again, it would provide benefit to not only this homeowner, but the commission and clear the deck and redraw everything in a manner. So right now, I mean, one of the requests was demarcate the limits of the easement. The limit of the easement goes through the pool and goes through the driveway. I mean, that's kind of impossible to do in the current configuration. That's kind of what my point was at the last meeting. It's just that it was subdivided, there was no houses on it, and then for whatever reason, they were allowed to build structure in the easement, which is obviously is against what the easement says. That's clear. But then it's left to these other things that say you're allowed to mow the easement. Well, it's kind of ambiguous how is that gonna be enforced? That was only my point. Of course, easements run. So I don't know if it's a benefit to do that. And then you could come up with some agreement where we're actually moving the easement line, put it along the buffer, and then say everything on this edge of it is going to be restored. We're gonna plant a buffer, we're gonna put a demarcation line. Everything on this side of it is now allowed to be maintained as it was previously. And all that's required to do is we have the information, survey it, write the new easement, release the existing easement, and then basically file the new easement at the same time. That would make a clear pathway forward. And these will come up. I mean, a lot of the houses up on Halls Highway, far up Sturgis Highway, there's subdivisions that were cut a long time ago, especially in the Ridge, where you will see these issues come up routinely. Because there was no backstop in the day between the inland wetlands and the planning and zoning. There was no close the loop on a CO type of thing. So that really wasn't put in until the mid-80s. So you will see where zoning was signing off on properties that had inland wetlands approvals with conservation easements. So they are out there. That being said, I think that would be a clean way to clean this up and come to an agreement to move this forward.
Okay. Thank you. Commissioners.
I have just generalized reluctance in rewriting someone else's easement. I wasn't here, I don't know who made it, I don't know what their motivations were, I can't get into their mind. I'm not saying don't do it, but I'm just saying I'm not comfortable, we've been asked this before, a couple of years ago, and I'm not comfortable rewriting a document. If there was somebody here that could speak for it, but I don't like substituting my opinion for someone else's. Cause I don't have the interest in the land, and whoever wrote this did have an interest in protecting that land.
But even if someone were here, Commissioner Hood, the easement goes through a swimming pool, through a building, through paved pavement.
Well, I don't think the swimming pool was put in appropriately, but there's no point in arguing that at this point.
I think that
No one's asked for that. Nobody here has said a word about the pool.
Yeah, but the pool's there and the building's there, and I
Right.
think Mr. Carey makes and it's going through the very corner of the building. I think he makes a reasonable request to alter the easement so that it doesn't go through the building at the very least.
So by the next meeting, what I would propose is that we would sit with staff to redraw an easement that is protective of the wetland.
Yeah, no, I'm gonna, staff is fabulous, they're great. This is really a commissioner's issue, especially with Commissioner Hood, myself, Commissioner Boucher. I just remember being out there almost 2 years now, right? So that's not gonna go through staff. We wanna, if we're gonna talk about that, I wanna talk about it either now or at the next meeting, because I want us to talk about it. This was us here.
I understand.
So I don't think anybody's opposed to working with you. I know, I think the court hearing's October 17th or trial, whatever it might be.
The trial date is October 17th.
Okay, correct. So, and I saw earlier today, there was no motion for continuance or anything yet, basically, because you wanna see what happens here tonight. Okay, so I know everybody's under the gun. Although in these situations, hopefully the court will grant a continuance. Don't know what the court will do. But so are you saying something along the lines of where the 4 trees are? You want just the lawn to, or you want the line to go that way, or do you want it to go all the way to the deep green?
Well, I would
Make it all
propose, so I would propose something that I would submit to you for your, I'd give you a couple different options. I didn't come with that tonight.
But I wanna move it forward.
Yeah, no, I agree.
I'll make it easier for you. If you're saying that the conservation easements should be that buffer zone and all of it's gonna be lawn, that's not gonna fly with me. That's
I can't really make it on the screen.
but if taking it out of and cleaning up, going through the house and the pool and what, yeah, sure, of course. So let's find that happy middle ground. I wanna move this forward. The damage has been done, but I don't want it to go on any further.
And I think it's time, we really should consider moving that. I mean, that.
Yeah.
So. Commissioner Bowman said to go through a building and a swimming pool. I mean, I respect Commissioner Hood and I understand where you're coming from, but let's be real about it,
Yeah.
We have to.
You don't have to have respect for me. What's going on here?
So
This is also an opportunity for us to update the easement to reflect, current thinking with respect to protecting wetlands.
Okay.
So I just got involved with this matter in August and I'm coming up with
Commend you for getting to the end, you're bringing it forward. And I think that might be a good plan, if you would have to give us the ability to continue it to the next meeting. The more plans, the better. And then if all we gotta do is come next meeting and say, that's the one, do it, that would make it easier for everybody.
Brian, is your ask also to pull it outside of the existing driveway?
Yes. I would, I mean, I would tell you what my goal is to meet, you know, the best compromises are normally where everyone walks away unhappy, unfortunately. That means you've done your job. So I would, you know, I would look at the aerial photography and establish where historically, before the existing homeowner, before there was a violation, where that has been maintained and try to draw it along those lines. Show the historic line of how the property's been managed and then basically back it up.
I don't feel like the history of how it's been managed is particularly relevant. I'm more concerned with what makes the most sense from an ecological point of view. I would really like to see a no-mow area somewhere here, and at the risk of sounding like this is a quid pro quo, I think that everybody can walk away
Unhappy.
I
obviously
Yeah, I think the only thing I would say to that is if you, it almost goes hand in foot with Commissioner Hood's comments about trying to get in the moment. You do have a conservation easement in 1978, and we know from aerial photographs actually how the property was maintained even before any structure was there. So I heard you. We will take it back and we understand that we need to fix this problem and move this forward. So we are completely on the same page with that. I would also though ask you just to think about historically how this property was developed even at the time of the easement and that this property, the way it's situated, hopefully we can find a middle ground in what you're saying and what the.
No, I understand, and I always, you know, how land was managed in the past, we've made a lot of mistakes.
Right.
Current thinking is, and I know Ted will agree with me, is that we're
Absolutely.
trying to now not only mitigate, but to manage for the mistakes that we've made, right? And so, and remediate, right?
So I will just tell you, generally easements or property lines are better drawn in very straight fashion out a lot of, so that you know, the meets and bounds aren't written pages long.
Well, and as you saw with the previous applicants, it's easy to demarcate.
Yeah.
Your lawn guys know where to stop and start.
Tim, do you have anything?
I would only say that one, this is already on next Wednesday's commission agenda as an item.
Okay.
As it relates to the easement, so the commission could. But also, I think we would all agree, having myself looked at aerial photos of the property, including that one and going back to the 30s, that the property prior to development was agriculture, likely pasture. I doubt it. I mean, maybe portions of it were used for hay or straw for animals, but probably pasture, which continues on the adjacent property to this day. But also a reminder that it is sloped, and things that happen on that, if it were to be manicured lawn on the slopes, you migrate down gradient to the wetlands that we're trying to protect, regardless of some of the other ones up gradient, I'll call it. But also that the town of Westport owns property down gradient. This our town of Fairfield and the Conservation Commission own the adjacent property down gradient with wetlands, and that's also home to Sasko Brook. So there are special interests to us, to the department and the agency and commission, to the I don't know which direction, to the left of the drawing, is all in our, everyone's interest. So what happens up on the right part in the dark green would affect those boundaries.
Did you all have to discuss? yeah, these are all things that we will need to discuss. And
Yeah.
I didn't mean to not speak to our staff. Yes, give them the plans and they will give you feedback. But ultimately, we're gonna be the ones that make that decision.
Right, and bear in mind that how the property was traditionally managed, conventional wisdom in 1975, based on best practices today, was wrong as to how we manage property.
Yeah, so I think I'm, as one who's been labeled as discriminatory, I'm willing to be unhappy. Cause I think that was well put, everyone's gonna be unhappy, I think then you've got it right.
I think tonight's meeting is a leaps and bounds movement forward, so I'm
But I
very.
will say for the record, I'm not really interested in the scenario about how it's been done.
Oh, yeah.
I don't care about that.
Yeah.
It's not persuasive to me in any way.
It's almost better cut to the chase with 5, 6, 7 proposals and reasons why.
Yeah.
Really.
Good.
Understood.
It sounds like the price is right again.
I know, it's big,
Yeah.
well, there's. If it was up to me, I would say the whole thing. Still conservation easement outside of the driveway and the house and the pool.
Well,
That's
I'll
one
be frank
option.
with you, that's
That's
where I'm
one
at.
option. But then there's the other option, well, it's been maintained for all these years, decades, and it should be just right at the edge of the buffer zone. That's your other zone, give us everything in between.
Got it.
And if the fly's back next month, he gets a vote.
If
I
the
think
fly,
he deserves it.
the fly.
Oh, the fly, yes.
So we're,
That's our
I don't think we're gonna be able to meet your Wednesday.
I think that's just for
Oh,
conservation.
that's just for conservation.
No, this,
Yeah.
yeah, this is wetlands, so this is different.
Even though I just wanna point out, even though nothing really concrete happened tonight, this is the most progress that this application is made in years, literally.
This progress is concrete.
I'll do it again.
Okay, we should invite the fly.
How does that work for you and your duties as our counsel with the court and the court dates and all of that?
So when would this application come back to the agency?
November 6th. So I have it.
We can, court will continue the trial, I expect, so.
Sure. I mean,
I'll
it's,
talk to Tim about what makes sense in terms of timing.
okay.
Does that need to be completed, is that? Ignorant.
We would have to complete it by November 15th. I mean, worst case scenario, we can do a special meeting the following week if need be.
We're gonna resolve it on the 6th.
But, okay, I'm just answering, Commissioner Hood's question, but yeah, it's November 15th is the latest, and then we have 35 days after that to make a
Right,
decision.
Okay.
Okay? Alright, so this public hearing is still open. Well, is anybody here that would like to speak in support of this application in the room or online?
There's a chat.
Chad, can someone explain, recap the progress that was made?
Well, we've agreed that we're all gonna disagree, and that's an agreement.
Yeah,
So,
there we go.
I mean,
Okay, so that's
that's
that.
pretty good.
Anyone here or online that would like to speak in opposition to this application? Okay, so now we're just continuing the public hearing to that day.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you. All right, number 6, continued, and it's -24-0079 Land Tech, 4180 Black Rock Turnpike, map 70, parcel 79. Expansion of an existing parking lot in a regulated area. Decision may be made if the hearing is completed or the hearing is continued. There is no 35-day public hearing timeframe to complete the hearing ends October 9th, 2024. 5-day time extension may be provided by the applicant. Public hearing continuation is December 13th, 2024 are Potential continuation date is November 6, 2024. If the hearing is completed, the agency shall make a decision within 35 days. Commissioners eligible to vote are Daphne Bowen, Richard Boucher, Jay Fain, Peter Hood, Ted Luxinger, and Diane Thomas. Commissioners not present on September 4th, 2024. And were Thomas, Jerry Leslie, Kato Mahoney, Amanda Martins Campbell. I will say for the record that I reviewed the video recording and the exhibits, and I brought myself up to speed. I will ask Commissioner Kato Mahoney if you did the same, so we will both be able to participate and vote. Pending receipt of public input, staff does not recommend approval. Additional information is provided for review and discussion. Good evening.
Good evening.
Fire council said good morning, and I'm like, wow, did we stay here all night?
I was watching the clock actually. Well, good evening, everybody. I know it's been a long evening for you. For the record, I'm John Fallon. I'm here representing the property owner and applicant. Just by way of some background, in terms of the last hearing, as you know, and to remind you, what this application is about is the first step in trying to increase somewhat parking at the existing Hi-Ho Hotel in Barcelona. That's not just a matter of preference. It's certainly a matter of convenience for customers, especially during evening hours when those two facilities are often busy. But most importantly, it's a matter of safety. Because with the parking lot across the street now lost to us, and I will talk about that in a minute. We really have an issue here in terms of, Black Rock Turnpike is a busy road, state highway, especially in the evening. So we have to come up with some way to accommodate some additional parking. If you're good enough to grant us a wetlands permit, then we will go to the zoning commission for their review of this matter as well. There was a mention during the previous hearing about potentially utilization of the Hartford Health building across the street. There's two issues with that. We have approached them at an early stage. They have absolutely no interest in doing that. And honestly, as a lawyer, I concur with them. Because if I were their lawyer, and they asked me about, well, how about allowing in the evening a hotel and a bar and restaurant to use your parking lot? Yeah. Excuse me. I probably would say not a great idea. But in addition to that, even if in some alternate universe they felt differently, it isn't a good solution in terms of safety, because you'd have a situation where you'd have patrons crossing Black Rock Turnpike at night, okay? So that's the background. That's why this application is important from a safety standpoint. So what we did and what we want to do tonight, and Brian, who I guess owns the seat for a good part of tonight, we have two things that we wanted to present to you. First of all, you did receive a staff report dated August 29, and Brian's going to address the specific staff comments that were very thoroughly made in that memorandum. And then we did hear at the last hearing what you were saying, especially with regard to the retaining wall and its size and its potential impacts. So we have submitted, and it's already submitted to you as of, I guess, last week? Correct. A revised proposal, an alternative proposal that we hope you will find to be a good response to your concerns. So Brian's gonna walk you through the staff report responses and then talk to you about the alternative.
Thank you very much. Just again for the record, Brian Carey, professional wetland scientist with Land Tech. Just to back up a little bit, after the last meeting, we did present a little bit, but understanding that this was going to be continued anyways. think we just agreed to continue the meeting based on the comments that were received by certain staff members. We did, since that time, also did get the staff recommendation or staff comments. We did submit into the record. I know it's late, I won't read them all, but we did get point by point response to the staff comments addressing all of their concerns. We believe basically, as Attorney Fallon stated, the issue is obviously there's a lack of parking on this property. Really what's driving it is the existing restaurant is doing very well, so they're looking to expand parking in that for that existing use. Basically went out and did a wetland evaluation back in January of 2024. There are steep slopes on the property. The wetlands on the property are really just associated with the Cricker Brook and its adjacent watershed. There is a flood zone that is directly adjacent to Cricker Brook, but none of the development will be occurring in that flood zone. Everything is outside of that. The topography on the site is relatively steep in the area of the parking lot. Basically, it's a 2-to-1 slope that goes down to Cricker Brook. The existing vegetation on the property is mostly invasive, with Norway maple and burning bush being most of the vegetation. There is oak and sugar maple as well. Basically, what we are looking to do, this was the plan that was initially submitted as our primary alternative. This is the plan we would like to go forward with for construction. We did hear at the last meeting that there were concerns about the height of the wall associated with this plan. And we did update the plans based on some staff comments regarding having a more thorough construction sequence, and also updating the erosion control plan for our preferred alternative, and providing a more robust planting plan associated with all of that. We have done all of that as requested by staff, but we in talking with the applicant, obviously the idea is to maximize the amount of parking on the property. Again, we understand that's difficult. That's why we came up with this scenario, which we did hear comments saying that they wanted to see another alternative. We have come up with this alternative, which actually reduces the parking on the property, the proposed parking on the property. That's right in my way.
From 43 to 37.
Yeah, so it reduces it from 43 to 37. The applicant is okay with that reduction. It still meets his goals of net parking for the restaurant. We believe that this is more protective of the wetlands. So we are proposing this alternative one as the preferred alternative based on the feedback we did have from staff. That being said, we didn't do full engineering of this, although we do know based on the alternative that was, or the original site plans that were submitted, that the drainage does work. It meets the requirements of the inland wetland regulations, the updated inland wetland regulations for the 10-to-2 the requirement to meet the 10-year storm post-development reduction to the 2-year storm post-reduction. So we would, as part of this preferred alternative, just replace the drainage in previously existing area where it was being proposed. This basically would allow for a greater planting buffer, reduce the overall height of the walls, and really still meet the requirements of the applicant. So we do feel that this is a feasible and prudent alternative in relation to the comments that we've received from staff and members. That being said, this is an alternative that we looked at way back when we were doing our initial design, which was to put in a parking garage. We didn't follow through with this initial alternative just because the size of the structure, the cost to build the structure, and it just didn't fit well into the site. Plus, it only yielded an additional 24 spaces. So we didn't pursue this as part of the original design. That being said, we basically our approach it would be a hybrid between the site plans that were submitted and that alternative one. I think that really answers all the questions for the staff and the commission that were presented last time. Generally, when the commission were to approve an alternative to the site plan that was submitted for review, they can approve that, and we would work with staff to address all the comments that would be specific conditions. We would put together a plan that would be approvable by staff and also the we didn't do the whole hard engineering on alternative one at this point, even though we do know it works, just because of the time crunch and get this done from the last meeting. But we do feel that this is the most preferred alternative at this point based on comments we've had and feedback from the applicant. So that being said, I can go through all the staff comments. I don't think you want me to do that.
You've all read it, I assume.
Yeah. When was this presented to staff?
This was not, this has been,
Now, just tonight?
It was submitted 2 weeks ago.
No, 2 weeks ago.
Oh, okay, so what?
Yeah.
Right.
Are those comments based for this?
October 2nd, we got it.
Yeah, October 2nd. Oh, I'm sorry.
Have you commented on this?
No, it came in right as we were getting the
Okay.
agenda ready to go out, so we have not.
Okay, so I mean, I obviously want staff to look at
No
it
doubt.
and advise us. But I'll start with some basic questions, because I went and reviewed the meeting earlier today from September. Commissioner Fain seemed to have an issue of the heights of the. So what's the difference? What's the saving? What's the, how did we reduce it and you know, can elaborate on that, that would be helpful. And be able to see it right well.
Right. And if there are any questions about Brian's general responses of September 5, sure, we certainly would love to entertain those as well. But the question, Brian, is
So the overall height is, it's still a 20-foot wall in one section, it's just pulled back further off of the slope. We have tried to reduce it, it does reduce the amount of fill that's required on the property. And again, it provides for a larger buffer planting area, which will be established, but
I'm sorry, I apologize. What do you mean pulled back from the slope?
further from the slope, so if you see, this is the existing plan.
Do you have a pointer or something?
Yeah, so
No, I can see that. You just mean.
so it's
Pulling it
more
closer to the-
linear, it doesn't encroach as far into the slope, it provides for further it provides less encroachment into the upland review area. So if you can see that, again, this provides, it will require less cutting of trees on the slope. Again, we would update the planting plan accordingly to address those comments. But the height of the wall does unfortunately stay between, I think is still at about 20 feet. But it is a better alternative, as Mr. Fain was saying. It also addresses, one of the comments from the staff was about maintaining a wildlife corridor. Even though the previous plan we felt had enough 30-foot buffer for wildlife corridor, this is really expanding it even further. Yes.
What is
correct.
it?
So it ranges in certain parts. The closest spot before was, I believe, 23, and now this is as far as 27 feet away from this spot.
In spots, it's more than 30.
It goes up, I don't have a ruler on me, but in some spots it is up to 40 to 50 feet away.
I have a basic question. So you're what you're doing, building some distance on the current parking lot,
Correct.
and then you're going to completely fill in the slope that's there now.
Correct. So this is just continuing basically the existing parking line that's out there already. The Ohio was built in a similar manner. So we're just, and the parking lot was expanded, I think, in 2014.
Right around then, yes.
So this is just a additional expansion. Again, it's modest, it's only.
It had always been there.
37.
You may remember, it was a dirt area. And people were parking there and it really wasn't safe. So we did get approval, planning and zoning and engineering, pave that area that had been previously used, but as a grass, excuse me, as a dirt parking.
Toward the, what you would look at as the bottom?
I'm sorry?
What do you mean towards the bottom, just so I have it in my head?
Well, if you would drive into the regular parking lot and face the building, to your left, there was a rather expansive dirt area, which was never approved parking by planning and zoning, but everybody parked there.
Like crushed stone.
Yeah, eventually there was some
Yes.
stone, and it was not good, especially in the winter time, in terms of people having to walk and stuff. So we did get that approval, and that's what you see there now.
Council, that's a question. You probably won't have the answer now. You can give it later. If this were to be built now, what would be the parking requirement? Is this, as it stands now, is it spot on, below what's required?
No, I have that information, and it is compliant.
Compliant.
It
So
is
why
compliant.
why do we need more? I'm just throwing it out there, that's all.
Because the restaurant is successful and the hotel is successful. And especially on evenings, we don't have parking to accommodate our patrons, although we are compliant.
I was gonna say, but it is compliant with the zoning
It
parking.
is, I actually did a little memo on that.
Oh, they used to park across the street at the
That's right.
All the time. When it was the nursery.
landscaping
Yep.
place, that was pretty, okay.
So this shows the existing parking. We did probably no less than 12 different alternatives. As part of this.
Feasible, no, that's great.
So the thing is walls, although it's high, building a wall is really a way first to stabilize the slope. It can be done in a manner that really does not cause a lot of erosion. Because the way you're building it is you're basically placing it on top of, first you make the cut, you lay the foundation of the wall, and then you can build that wall up. So it's really not causing, you're not clearing and grubbing and opening up, exposing all the soil. So while, the height of the wall might be, visibly something to look at, we'll be, putting buffer plantings in front of that. But from a constructability standpoint, even though there's a lot of fill going in there, it's not gonna be a highly erodible type of impactful activity to the adjacent water course.
Well, Brian, I would think a wall is gonna terminate any erosion going down towards the water course.
So these are modular walls, so you're not moving a lot of, you're basically digging it out, flattening out the base of that wall and then stacking it. So a lot of times where you see areas that have highly erodible soils or steep slopes, people put a modular wall in to prevent a lot of the erosion.
Give me a picture, where will the machines go? How do they get there? How do they?
So you would clear and grub all of this out, and then you'd basically lay your first course of block. And we did, one of the things that the staff asked for was to provide a very detailed construction narrative.
Okay.
Which we did provide.
And it's in there, okay, then I'll read that, you don't have to go through it, then that's fine.
Just to answer your question, under the current regulations, The hotel with 40 rooms requires 40 spaces. The liquor store with 700 square feet requires 4 spaces. The restaurant with 1,953 square feet of patron floor area requires 49 spaces. So that's 93, but the zoning regulations provide that for multiple use, you have to meet 75% of that. And so that would be 75 spaces.
Council, very impressed you had that information on you. Excellent, excellent job.
Where did you, can you just generally say for those listening, where did you grab the 6 spaces that you
We're losing.
sacrificing?
Brian, where to accommodate the moving of the wall, where are those 6 spaces?
So it's actually in here because we have to put landscaping islands as part of our application. So you can see where this landscape island is going. There's actually spots that we'd be losing because of that interior landscaping requirement.
So we go, as I said, from 43 in the original plan to 37, but 37 is
Still a good number.
still meets the mark for what we need.
Okay. Does anybody have any further questions, or should we just let staff review and stuff and then they can?
November 5th.
Yeah, November 6th. Is anybody here that'd like to speak in support of this application? Anybody online that'd like to speak in support? Anybody here that'd like to speak in opposition? Anybody online that'd like to speak in opposition? Nope, then this public hearing will be continued to the next wetlands meeting, which is November
6th. We'll follow up with Tim and Sarah in terms of your comments on the revised plan. Thank you. Thank you. And the Yankees won 3-2. Big night for New York.
I know.
The Mets won, the Yankees won.
On the record?
Huh?
Is that for the record?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Put on the back here.
Okay, so we are moving on to Roman numeral 9, staff reports. Reports from the Conservation Department. CWC permit applications received 10. The notice of violations issued 2. And C bond release 3. Number 2 is site walks for October. Can we just circulate an email with everybody and we can do?
I think the only one you need is the 70 Long Meadow.
Yeah, that's the only,
Alright.
sidewalk I have.
So commissioners, we'll just do some emails and pick a good date for everybody. We don't have to do it tonight.
And there is one already for the one on Congress Street. There's photographs,
Yeah, I don't.
And based on early sunsets now, we're good with Sunday mornings.
Sunday morning.
Sunday
Yeah,
mornings.
Sunday mornings.
Okay, I'll circulate that email.
And now we're moving on to Roman numeral 10, other, number 1, request to discuss fee schedule. We just did the schedule.
It was received written letter. Just looking for it in the
Papa
packet.
George.
Oh,
Yes.
okay, well then, you looked at, sorry, I should have looked up, I'm sorry, come on up. If it's you, then you know it's you, all right.
It was provided, it's on the cloud, I
Okay.
don't see it in the packet.
That's okay. So, sir, please, but state your name and address for the record so that we can.
My name's Lucas Pop George, 493 Winnapock Road, Fairfield.
Yeah.
I'm a son moderator in town, I'm also a builder in town. And going to the fees,
Yes.
requesting we revisit them. I know a lot of time was spent making the fee schedule, going over it. And I agree that the old fee schedule was way too complex and burdensome, for staff and people applying. The new fee schedule, I feel like in the public hearings, we heard that most fees would go down, some would go up. Overall, a lot of them would go down. What I've seen in my research, my permits, that most of them have tripled in value and are 2 to 3, sometimes 10 times more than what neighboring towns are. So that's why I though I know is well intended and was put into place, I don't think possibly the repercussions of the fees and how they were placed in were accounted for. And now we have very high fees in comparison to other towns.
Okay, so and you provided that information to staff, that the report you did, because I'm just gonna lay it out there, right? So it's been about a year or two since there was a subcommission appointed. I know Commissioner Fain was part of it. I think Ted was, were you?
I was not.
No. Commissioner Luxinger was on it, and they did a lot of work. They looked at other towns, and then we had public hearings on all that. And if you're saying that that's something that it is, you can give us the information, we'll revisit it, but a lot of good work was put in by the commissioners to come up with that. It was always well intended. We haven't seen from anybody any issues. Unless staff, have you seen, Tim, have you seen anybody say this is an issue?
No, this is the first.
This is the first, okay. So if you'd like to present whatever information you wanna present to staff, we can revisit this. And thanks for pointing it out. If you have specific information, it maybe it'd be nice to expand, look through other towns and look through other applications that are in our, yeah, and then
So
also.
the letter I sent in, it had examples of what other towns, best I could tell without submitting a full application, of what.
And then here in our town, if you can look at other applications, not just yours, I know you develop here, but just to see, I
pulled through the IWC for last year, which is what I could pull up.
Yep.
Online, and pulled in 278,000 plus or minus in IWC permits in comparison to most years.
Well, no, not the year. No, you can't go by the year. You gotta go by specific application by application to see what the difference is, right? Because you're claiming that each application has sometimes up to 10 times worse than what it was. So that.
10 times more than other towns, I'm sorry.
Than other towns, oh, okay.
But
Right,
mostly
well,
three
we're a
times
bougie
more.
town, what can I tell you? No, but it's, that was a joke, but.
So the examples at the public hearing given with we actually gave some examples and.
You're not talking total revenue.
I was talking IWC revenue, I can't get the CWC revenue. But I have a CWC and now it's 3 times what it would have been. So just an example of that, if you're just doing a patio, it's $500 permit. Most patios come with steps, something like that, you're at $1,000.
We wouldn't go extra for the steps.
Okay.
The drainage for the patio, yeah.
Used to be
Drainage for the
720.
patio would be $1,000, so most CWC permits were $1,020 with the state fee involved. So most of those permits involve more than one item. So you're at price, and if they have a couple of items, they're way over the price.
You're aware of this because you work in other communities where comparable permits are less?
I
You're,
do work in other communities, yes, and I also have all their price schedules,
that's how you became aware of the difference in costs.
the difference
Yeah,
in
okay. It's something we definitely should look at, sure.
Not just a dollar.
So I thank you
It's
for
not
bringing it
just
to.
a dollar amount, it's, taking the permit fees, a lot of towns will take a application fee and not the full permit fee up front. That's another issue that that could be brought up, but those are some of my concerns that I have.
Thank you for bringing it to our attention.
And I'd like to know what the process you would like to go through, if any, and let me know how to move forward.
But you've submitted some comparisons to
So I wrote a letter that has some comparisons on it. So just a comparison to the permit I did for 493 Winnabuck Drive. Most of you are here for that. My permit fee was,
I appreciate that it's your permit fee, but I would prefer if you were gonna give us information.
I was comparing that
on a general.
different towns.
So I
also found I haven't been able to find any, I know there are some permits that ran in the $50,000 range prior to the change. Those are all 3+ acre properties with a ton of wetlands. And a lot of times, either a parcel is subdivided off and they made it a minimal parcel, so the permit fee wouldn't be so high. Pansy Road's a good example of that. 124 Pansy Road. I think that property had 7 or 8 acres, and they just cut off a 9,000 square foot piece to keep the permit cost down, which new construction on that cost was $3,500 compared to, you know, 15,000 right now. So, or I'm sorry, 12 to 13,000 for that permit right now. So short of a super large project for multi-years, you're not getting up to those $12,000-13,000 numbers as we are now, which nearly every permit that has been pulled in the last year was over $10,000 for IWP. Just the fact that it's 5,000 to start, just to come here, it's 5,000. New construction is 3,500. That doesn't include porch, driveway, drainage, anything else. So any new construction house that's coming here, which all of them do, is over $8,000, $9,000 just without any additional work.
Well,
Just the example given at the public hearing was a $6,000 permit for the construction with the pool and patio. My calculations, it doesn't work because you can't do a $6,000 permit when it's $3,500 for the new house and $5,000 to go here. Then you have the pool, the patio, and I think there's one other thing on that example. And they say the permit went from 10,000 to 6,000. But that's not the case because you would have drainage, you'd have a driveway, have a porch, probably a deck. So that would just keep raising the price of the permit. Some other towns, when they say a new construction house is 3,500, or some towns it's 1,500. That's all inclusive of all the work on the property for that one structure. So that's a good example. So, you know, let me know how to move forward and I'm happy to work with you.
Well, you can submit as much information as you want. I'm still gonna make the statement that there was a subcommission that was set up. Our commissioners who did all of this research, and we had public hearings held. And it was public to come and talk about it. And those are now over, and this is our new fee structure. And you're pointing out that there might be some inconsistencies. We've already done that. I mean, we're not gonna undo the fees right now unless there's some significant information that's provided to us.
I'm not sure there's inconsistencies. I think I'm having trouble following you. You're stacking blocks up here and there, and I can't compare the oral presentation. I can't even grab what you're saying. I'm not just missing it, but I simply can't follow you. I think they worked hard. I would guess that there is no inconsistency because whether the fees are high or not, it's not material to me anyway.
That's what you've
I
submitted.
don't think
We'll review it, and staff will review. Cool, there, thank you.
I mean, if there were people that had issues with this during the public hearing, obviously that would have been something. Now it's come after. We've taken note of it. You wanna provide more information, that'd be great. And we will look at it. But at this point, I don't think there's anything that we're gonna do. These are our fees, these are the fees that we have in the town.
And we do have a mechanism for a fee waiver. So if it is a hardship and there's something that's going on, there's mitigating circumstances that's pushed this application fee, which has happened in the past, where, you know, they come
This happened
before
tonight.
us. Yes, and they come before us and they say, this is, it's kind of stacked up like this, and then we can mitigate those fees.
Oh, I understand that. It's very rare to do a large new construction house and have. Say. Like. I'll give some data. I know it's later. Well,
Yeah.
more data.
Okay, that would be helpful.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank
And you stayed here a long time.
I know,
Thank you very
I know.
much.
Yeah.
I know.
And the intention wasn't to do that, that wasn't the intention when we did the
Right.
fees, it was like, how can we pad our, yeah.
All right, anything else, commissioners? Any others? No, Tim, we good?
Next Tuesday night, P O C D.
You.